Hey guys, how do you hear me? I've had a little bit of a technical issue that I'm trying to straighten out, but it seems to be working fine. So if you can hear me properly, hit hit your little hand, please. Raise your little hand. I'd appreciate that. Yeah, you hear me okay? All right, let me do something really quick. Just stand by for a second. I'm so sorry for this delay. Unfortunately, I'm not producing this myself. I am producing this myself rather, and I have to do it all by myself. So you just give me 1 second, please. Okay, there we go. Okay, so I think that we're okay, and people should be filing in momentarily. So I think that all is copacetic. What happened was that before I set up the GoToWebinar, and there was something happened to my computer. It went on the fritz for a little bit, and because it went on the fritz, the GoToWebinar software was not allowing me to share my screen, and therefore I had to sort of like quit the GoToWebinar and shut off the webinar and just restart it. And now it's sharing my screen properly. I'm assuming it's sharing my screen properly. Please confirm by raising your hand if you see a purple screen that says money, women, and lessons. Do you see that? Yeah, I'm not a total boomer. Yeah, I still have enough IQ points to figure out how to work this goddamn stuff, you know? Yay, electricity. Yay, computers. All right, guys. It's great to be with you once again. It's been, on the one hand, an eventful week, and on the other hand, a dismal week. To tell you the truth, I don't know about you, but I accomplished very, very little. I feel the depression that I discussed yesterday of being cooped up and the pressure of being indoors and without socialization, it's weighing on me. I don't know how many of you it's weighing on. I mean, raise your hand if it's been weighing on you as much as it's been weighing on me. Let me just fix it here. Yeah, a few of you. Yeah. Okay, and let me just put all your hands down, and let me just ask you guys, who has had a fantastic week? Which one of you guys has had a fantastic week? Oh, you lucky bastards. No fair. No fair. Yeah, evil, evil, evil. No, but anyway, we should all be thankful that we're alive, thankful to be living in these very interesting times, and thankful that we are paying attention to what's important at this time, which is not what's going on every day, but rather the long term. So without further ado, here is the outline of today's webinar. As you can notice that I have the hat tip next with the name of each of the person who suggested each of these topics. They're a bit random, but these are the topics that you guys wanted me to talk about, and I'm delighted to talk about them. I really like it when you guys do that, when you guys put in the comment section what you want me to talk about, because a lot of times it forces me to think about things that I hadn't really thought about. For instance, the very first one, how to spot envious people. I'm going to bring on Roberto. I hope Roberto is here. And I'm going to bring on everybody who, Roberto is not here. Oh man, that's no fair. Yeah, everybody else whose name is listed here, I'm going to call on you, and I hope that you're there so I can bring you on board and you ask the question yourself, because I think it's a lot more fun to hear the person who set out a topic that a lot of you guys thought was worth discussing. So yeah, well, let's get going. Now that I think about it, should I talk? You know, I'm the envious people thing. I'm gonna kick it to later. I'll discuss it when we get to girls and managing narcissists. You know, that was a mistake on my part. I should have moved it. Oops, let me just move it over real quick. because yeah, it's not, I mean, it's an important topic, but let's move it there. There we go. Yeah, there's much better. We'll push it to later in the show, because let's talk about money and investing, okay? A lot of people ask a lot of different questions about money and investing, and my contention of the previous several webinars has been nobody knows what the fuck is going on, and so better sit tight. Now, retrospectively, this is proving to be bad advice, because as you can see on the stock markets, both the NASDAQ and the Dow Jones Industrial Average, are almost back to the pre-collapse level. They're still below those levels. Last I checked, the peak of NASDAQ was just shy of 10,000, and right now we just crossed 9,000, so it's still roughly 1,000 below the peak, roughly 10% below the peak. But of course, it fell over 30%. And so this rebound that we have back up to 9,000, if you hopped on when it was at the bottom, you would have made quite a bit of money. But of course, nobody knows when the bottom is. That's the key issue. And nobody knows how far the Fed and the Treasury Department are going to go to levitate the markets. That's why I have not invested in the markets. And that's why I thought that, you know, anything could happen, and that it was really an issue of momentum trading. But all these companies still are going up in value insofar as their stock is concerned, which is fucking crazy. It's crazy because, you see, these companies don't have revenue. Some of them do, of course, like, say, for instance, Netflix, like Equifax, whatever. Those companies that still are humming along, or that have actually had a bump up because of greater demand, like Walmart, like Amazon. Yeah, sure, they're doing gangbusters, but in terms of revenue. But all the other companies, like the airlines, come on, the airlines, they're getting zero revenue. And so what? You're going to invest in those companies? Come on, that's crazy. So it doesn't make any sense to invest in these companies, and yet their stock prices are rising. That goes to show that this is insanity. It's levitation, financial levitation, courtesy of the Federal Reserve, the Bank of England, the European Central Bank, and the Bank of Japan. They're all doing the exact same thing. And now they're talking about buying ETFs. I mean, Jesus Christ, okay? So I personally am not invested in anything. Now, Peter, I hope you're there. Peter, are you there? Oh yeah, he is. Okay, let's talk to Peter. Peter, why don't you, I'm gonna unmute you. Oops, sorry. Hang on, where did Peter go? Oh, there we go. Yeah, there we go. Peter, are you there? Hello, Peter. Peter? I guess are you plugged in?
Hello. Can you hear me?
Peter, are you there? Speak up.
Hello.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
Hello.
Okay, he can't hear us. So, okay, we'll have to let it slide for later. I'll just ask Peter's question. Peter asked, is silver a good buy? That is a very good question, but the problem is that at this time, nobody's delivering silver. So you're only buying silver certificates. And the issue becomes, whose certificates are you purchasing? Because of course, usually you go out and you buy silver and you get delivery. A lot of times you will buy a certificate for delivery of the silver from some reputable dealer. And you're fairly assured that eventually you will get the silver if you want delivery. A lot of times it's just more convenient for them to store the silver and for you to just buy and sell the certificate for the silver that's in the custody of whatever reputable dealer you're working with. But right now at this time, the issue becomes, and something to worry about, are dealers issuing more certificates than they actually have in their possession? It's kind of sketchy, because they actually happen to do this often. They like fudge it a little bit. And so how much fudging are they doing now where it's not possible to do delivery because of the problems with the infrastructure, specifically transportation and delivery of the precious metals? So I don't know. For a short term, you know, kind of like hop on, hop off kind of situation, okay, sure. If you're pretty sure that silver is going to go up in value quite a bit in a short term, and you will be able to sell that certificate relatively easily, sure, why not? But you know, you got to be almost psychic to know about that. So in theory, silver, yes, I think it's a good buy. In a practical sense, How are you going to go about doing that? Full disclosure, I've been looking into this possibility very much because I think that a lot of the measures that are going to be taken by the fiscal authorities are incredibly foolish. So this is my plan. I am not advising you. I want to make this really, really clear insofar as silver and other precious metals for that matter. I personally have come to the conclusion that long-term, yes, we will have hyperinflation. I think that we will debase the currency, the dollar and the euro. They will become worthless, or they will lose a substantial portion of their value. If you told me that in 5 years they'll lose 75% of their value, I would not be surprised. But I don't think that this is going to be a short-term issue, short-term being the next 8 months. I think that until after the election, in the United States at least, we can be confident, relatively confident, as to the strength of the dollar, unless something unforeseen happens. And I'll get to what I think might be unforeseen. But my thinking is at this time that the fiat currencies are stable enough. Long term, they're not. Short term, they are. And so once the situation, the social situation, the infrastructure situation normalizes, and we start getting delivery of silver, and we get this this calming down of this issue that you can't acquire commodities, because this is happening all over the place in the commodities markets, you know, in agriculturals, in oil and gas, we're getting gluts of all of these commodities, and we are unable to deliver these commodities, and it's becoming an issue. And so my thinking is that once we start to reopen the economy and our supply chains start to be reestablished, and these commodities start to flow back into the markets, my thinking is that it will be easy to acquire silver, gold, platinum, and that at that time is when I personally am going to buy. And of course, I'm not going to buy certificates, I'm going to buy the real thing. I'm going to make sure that I take physical delivery of my precious metals. My thinking is that I will probably go something along the lines of, say, 20% platinum, say another 40% gold and another 40% silver, something like that, in terms of value, okay? Not in terms of weight, of course. My thinking is that platinum, I do believe, is undervalued at this time. And silver is also undervalued. And so both of those commodities might be smart to have, you know, a majority stake in those, something like 60%, and a 40% in gold, because that will be the benchmark for all of them, you know. And so if platinum does not start, you know, doesn't go up in performance as it did before because of the issue of the auto industry, because remember, platinum is essential for catalytic converters. If the auto market doesn't really recover and platinum stays where it is, it'll still be a good store of value. And then silver and gold, well, silver is at historic lows in so far as valuation against gold is concerned. So it would be foolish not to be paying very close attention to silver and be picking up silver at the earliest opportunity, but it's physical silver. Because these certificates, like I said earlier, they are only worth as much as you believe in the dealer that's issuing them. And anything can happen in this kind of chaotic environment. So you want to have the real thing, not silver certificates. That's my thinking at this time insofar as silver. Is it a good investment? If I could buy physical silver on delivery right the fuck now, I'd buy it. Buy the fistfuls, buy the boatload. Yeah, absolutely. No question. It's the problem of taking delivery. You can't. I mean, at least in Europe. Perhaps in the United States, it's possible, but also it's more likely than not that those are going to be, like, for instance, silver coins, where the coin itself has value quite apart from the value of the metal. And that is a different kind of investment altogether. You're investing in an antique. You're not investing in the silver commodity. I'm not interested in investing in antiques. I mean, I respect that market, but it's just not something I'm interested in. I don't want to pay a premium for an antique. I want to pay for silver, the commodity. I don't care if it comes in bars or coins or whatever. I just don't I don't care about the numismatic value of silver. I care about the value of silver, okay? And I take possession. So that's my thinking. That's my strategy. This is my personal strategy, and you can copy it or not. You are grown-ups rather, and you know what's best for you. I'm not going to tell you what you should do. I am telling you what I am going to do, and that's what I'm going to do. Koa, is he there? Oh man, Koa is not here. Guys, remember, see, in the future, what I'm going to be doing is that whenever I do the webinar, when I say the topics and whatnot, the warning, the morning of the webinar, I'll post the names of the people whose questions I'm going to be discussing, so that you guys can be here, because it would be so great to have talked to Koa, and I hope to talk to Dan and Karsten and Zarek and Reiling and everybody about, oh, shit. You guys aren't seeing my screen. Hang on a second, hang on. Oh, there we go. Sorry about that, my mistake. Please forgive me. I hope you, let me put your hands down and let me ask you if you're all seeing the screen now with the outline of the show, okay? I'm so sorry about that. That was just me being an idiot. Again, a boomer, loser insofar as tech is concerned. So, okay, thanks so much. Now you're seeing it properly. Okay, so there's the outline, my mistake, I'm sorry. Koa asked, okay, like what I was saying, in the future, be aware that if you ask a good question, because I will call on you so that you can present the question and fill it out and flesh it out, so that we all have a pretty fair idea of what you're talking about. Because a lot of these topics got a lot of hits in the comment section, and which is great, because it gives a guidance to me as to what people want to discuss. A lot of people were asking what Koa is asking, which is, should we pay off debts or should we invest? Okay. When this started, what did I tell you? I told you that if I were in straitened circumstances, I would get as many credit cards as possible, go into as much debt as possible, and to get as much cash as possible. That's why I said in like the first webinar, because of this pandemic, this shit show that we're involved in, I said that the smart thing would be to get cash now, as much cash as possible, and fuck the debt. And if I crash my credit score, so be it. It's more important for me to be feeding my family than to be maintaining a pristine credit score. That's what I was saying, right? And I still believe that. I still stand by that thinking. And that pretty much answers your question now, doesn't it, Koa? Because my think would be, fuck any debt. There are so many people who are going to default on their debts that it won't matter insofar as I'm concerned. I want to have cash. And I want to have cash for myself and to invest. Now, I've already made it clear how I would invest, which is not go into stocks or bonds, because the valuations are absurd, because these companies aren't bringing in any revenue. And it is unclear if these companies will have revenue once the economy reopens. Because parenthetically, today I went out to purchase some flip-flops, of all things. Here in Amsterdam, things are kind of like opening up. And so I went down to the Kalverstraat, which is a big street where they have a bunch of shops and whatnot. I live very nearby, 4 blocks away. So I went to the Kalverstraat and I got to the Foot Locker. And it was a very unpleasant buying experience. First of all, they squirted you with this shit, this disinfectant shit on your hands, which is like sticky and yucky. And then you had to sort of like go through the store in a pre-arranged route. And if you stopped one place, you sort of like held up the line for everybody else. So it was like you were stressed out about buying. You had to like pass what you wanted to buy and pick it up really quick, and then go to some place where you could get an attendant to get you the right shoe size and shit like that. It was an unpleasant situation, man. And I just wanted to get fucking flip-flops. It was just not pleasant, okay? I think that once the normal returns, once the lockdown ends, because it will eventually end, and we'll get to when it'll end in a bit, but when it eventually ends, I think that a lot of people are going to just be turned off by shopping. They're just not going to want to shop. They're just not going to like it, because that kind of pressured, tense situation where everybody's like scared of one another, it's just unpleasant, because shopping is supposed to be fun, easy, convenient, efficient, but most of all fun, okay? Because especially in the last 20 or 30 years, people have made the shopping experience something fun and easy and smooth, entertainment, so that of course people will buy more. But if it's unpleasant and stressful, they're going to buy less naturally. So yeah, I don't see anything that you can invest in apart from precious metals, because I do believe that they're going to inflate the currency. And like I said, not right away. It'll start happening, November and later, not now. Okay. When's the signal to invest in the stock markets? Well, never, Dan. It's simple as that. Let me see if Dan is around. Dan, okay, there's Dan, you, and I'm going to put everybody's hand down. Dan, you, and Dan Edelston. I forget which one of you guys asked me this question. Can you raise your hand if you're the Dan Edelston, you're the one who did it? Okay. Dan, are you there? Hello.
Hey, Coach, how are you?
Pretty good. Yourself, man?
Pretty good, thanks.
I'm so glad that you're on, man. Yeah. So hit me with your question. What were you thinking?
Yep, so as we can tell right now, the market is clearly a disconnect between Wall Street and Main Street with the Fed buying everything.
Yeah.
And according to what I've seen, like on the Buffett indicator, the Shiller PE ratio,
Yeah.
stocks are definitely overvalued right now.
What's the P/E ratio?
I think it's at like 26, 27 right now.
Really? Oh, that's interesting.
On the Shiller PE.
Yeah, but what earnings are they using for that valuation?
To be completely honest,
or?
I've just got into studying it.
Oh, okay. So yeah, because it doesn't make any sense because of the now. Now they don't have any earnings, So I'm like, what the hell? So well, okay. So you want to know when's the signal to invest, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. My thinking is not for the foreseeable future. And let me mute you here and just like go on a rant about this, but it's a good question. It's a really good question. But it goes to something fundamental. We're going into a depression. In a depression, what does that mean? Companies contract to survive. Companies that are over indebted, that are just really big with a lot of debt, they're going to eventually collapse and go into bankruptcy. Simple as that. And the companies that survive are the companies that are able to squeeze themselves down, literally deflate, downsize, drastically downsize. You look at the companies during the Great Depression that survived, companies like Ford, Chevrolet, Firestone. How did they survive? They downsized. They laid off workers, shut down factories, produced less, became smaller companies. That's what led them to survive. Now, the problem we are having currently is that the Fed and the Treasury, what they want is for the companies to remain at the same size that they were before, just idle for the time being, with the idea that eventually when this lockdown ends, everybody will just flow back into these factories and it'll be like nothing. It will have been as if we just hit the pause button on the economy and now we're hitting the pause button again and restarting everything. But that's not going to happen, because when people start going back into the economy, they're going to buy less. Because of the simple fact of the unemployment. You all saw the unemployment, right? 14%, is it? The greatest single jump in unemployment figures ever, eclipsing every other unemployment jump. Yeah, this is cataclysmic. I will bet you by next month, it'll be over 20%. And if you were to tell me that the first Friday of next June, it's going to be at 25% unemployment, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. It's going to be, because it is already, it's a nightmare. Okay. Now, those people who are unemployed, they are unemployed. Yeah. They're not like sort of like on standby or some shit like that. They got cut. They are unemployed. Those people are not going to be spending money once the economy gets going again. There isn't going to be any kind of discretionary spending, because all those people are going to be thinking, how do I pay food, rent? That's their concern. The idea of buying anything extra, like a car or a washing machine or anything like that, hell with that. They're not going to buy any of that stuff. And since they're not going to buy any of that stuff, companies are not going to be around to produce those things to sell to them, because there aren't going to be the consumers. And the only companies that are going to survive are the ones that get small fast enough that they can continue on with just less sales, less production, just smaller, but surviving. Okay, this is like when the asteroid hit the Earth and just killed off all the dinosaurs. And why did the mammals survive? Because they were these little rodents running around. Okay, they were small enough to survive. That's not quite accurate. I'm actually reading a book or I read a book rather, on the dinosaurs. It's a little more sophisticated than that, but for purposes of this conversation, so far as this metaphor is concerned, you get the picture. Small is beautiful. Small survives this meteor strike, this asteroid strike. And the big dinosaurs, they're going to die, no matter how much life support the Fed gives them. And it's just postponing the inevitable. And in the effort to postpone the inevitable, that's going to be the causes of hyperinflation. Because all of this cash sloshing around, it just doesn't make any sense. Okay? So anyway, going back to Dan's question, it's a really good question because he wants to know, he's got a bunch of cash sitting on the sidelines. When can he go back into the stock market and buy stuff? And the thing is, see, you can go back in now, Dan, because right now the Fed and everybody is just trying to bring back up the price of stocks. So you could probably make a lot of money if you hop on and hop off. And of course, you got to know which stocks to hop on to and hop off of. And a lot of people say, don't fight the Fed, do whatever the Fed is doing, which is actually sound advice, insane and fucking wrong. And the moral hazard is incredible, but it's the proper advice insofar as investing. Don't fight the Fed. Do what the Fed is doing. If they're buying ETFs, if they're buying these kinds of bonds or those kinds of bonds or whatever the fuck they're buying, buy that. Yeah, of course. It's like, when you're driving in a crowded city with a lot of traffic and then an ambulance all of a sudden appears out of nowhere going somewhere fast, right? What do? You get behind the ambulance. Yeah, because everybody's going to get out of the way of the ambulance. You don't fight the ambulance. You don't get ahead of the ambulance. You go right behind the ambulance, right? And you cross the whole city in 2 seconds, right? Okay, it's the same kind of situation with the Fed. Do what the Fed is doing, but you got to understand that the Fed will turn on the spigot and turn it off, and you got to be fast. And this is not investing. This is trading. It's day trading. I personally don't have the stomach for it. I don't have the balls for it anymore, or the nerve. Call it what you will. You want to call me a chicken shit? Fine, I'm a chicken shit. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, that's me. Yeah, I'm going to start talking to you in chickenese. Yeah, seriously, no fooling around. There isn't going to be a signal because all this stuff is artificial. And if the Fed were honest and just let the chips fall where they may, all these companies would go down the toilet, which is actually what should happen. And of course, they're not going to let that happen. But okay, so everything that will survive, definitely survive, is smaller companies. When would you invest in those smaller companies? Well, that's the point. Nobody knows when the bottom of the market is going to happen. When you look at the Great Depression, the bottom of the market happened something like it was after 1929. I want to say it was 32, 33, something like that. Okay, I could be wrong, but it's not really important. What happens is that, see, it fell and then it came back up again, dead cat bounce, and then fell some more, and then a little bit up again, fell some more, and kept on going all the way down. And it hit the rock bottom like in 32, 33, and it took 43 years until 1975 or 1965. I forget how. It was years, decades, for the stock market to come back up to its pre-crash levels. It took a long goddamn time. The old era of trading is over, where you could just get into some, mutual funds or some ETF or whatever, and it would just grow and grow and grow, and you'd become richer and richer and richer without really doing anything. Those days are over. Just get that into your head. Those days are gone. And it's all about trading and knowing where to put your chips on the table, following the ambulance that is the Federal Reserve. But that's not investing now, is it? Going back to the other assets in which you can invest in, what are the asset classes? There are 4, right? There's basically commodities, stocks, bonds, and real estate. Now in commodities, of course, you have different classes of commodities. You have agricultural, industrial. Insofar as stocks, you only have stocks basically. you have tech stocks and this and that, but it's basically the same thing. Bonds, you have government bonds, that is federal government bonds, state bonds, sovereign bonds, and you also have corporate bonds. Corporate bonds include investment grade bonds all the way down to junk bonds, right? And what are bonds? They are debt. That's what it is. And is debt a good investment? Not now, because see, a lot of these companies aren't going to be able to pay back their debt. So why would you buy their debt? You buy their debt, and what happens if the company can't pay it, which is an increasing risk with all these companies, you see? And commercial real estate and residential real estate is the fourth asset class, right? Okay, so commodities, I sort of discussed it with silver. Stocks, like I said, like Dan said, the valuation is 26 to 1, but that's from the previous earnings, not the current earnings, which are 0. Stocks are supposed to be valued based on the earnings, and the earnings are 0, so these stocks are worth nothing. If they're priced at anything, it's artificial, and that artifice can end instantly. If it's not only an issue of whether the Fed stops propping up these prices, you got to keep something else in mind. What happens if enough people realize that these valuations are bullshit and everybody heads to the door at the same time? The Fed won't be able to stop them all. It won't be able to prop up the prices of all the stocks. It's not going to be possible. There are going to be too many sellers. And people will be willing to liquidate their positions, their equity positions at any price. And so those stocks are going to go down the tubes, right? Okay, and then bonds, I mentioned it briefly before, these companies, you don't know if they can pay it back, and we get to real estate. Real estate, you've got commercial and you got residential. Now, commercial seems like a bad buy. Why? Because, like I explained before, anecdotally, people are reluctant to shop. I heard some story somewhere in Texas where they reopened everything. Nobody went to the malls, they all went to the beach, which makes sense, of course, because if you don't have much money and you want to get outdoors, are you going to go to a shopping mall, which sort of like forces you to buy shit? Or are you going to go to the beach where you can, bring a picnic of stuff that you made at home, i.e. a lot cheaper, and, bring a little picnic and hang out with the wife and kids and splash around in the water and have a nice time, and you didn't take a hit to the wallet or to the credit card. You see, that's going to be a lot more common. So commercial real estate, and not only that, we've discussed previously in previous webinars how businesses are going to realize that the work at home is just so much cheaper. They don't have to have a big office. They can basically outsource the office space to people's homes. So they work from home and they pop over to the office every once in a while, maybe once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks. And so because of it, the offices can be a lot smaller. They can have like hot desks as opposed to an assigned desk for each person. And so they have, like, say, 20 employees working at this company, at this firm that has offices, but the offices only have hot desks. Like they have, say, for 20 employees, they only have, say, 5 hot desks that are rotated among the employees. Nobody leaves any of their shit there in these desks. They just use them when they come in once per week. They just use them for their meetings or this or that and the other. And then they go back home and work from home, and some other worker comes and uses that desk. You see, that's going to be a lot more common. It's going to be really cheap for employers because they're not going to have to have a 20 desk office. No, they're going to have a 5 desk office, a quarter of the rent. And that's more deflationary pressure. And we're going to be seeing this, okay? So commercial real estate is not going to be the great buy, either retail commercial or office commercial. Residences, same thing. You're going to have an issue of price deflation. And also, like I mentioned in previous, the mortgage lenders are not going to be willing to put out these big 99% mortgages or 100% mortgages. Forget about the jumbo mortgages. Those are out the window. They are no longer underwriting jumbo mortgages because the risk is too high, because jumbo mortgages are not guaranteed by the US federal government. This applies only to the US. Sorry for my international listeners. So what happens is that everything is deflating. Things that used to cost 100, well, there's going to be so much oversupply and so little demand. Well, the oversupply, a product of the lack of demand, that the suppliers are going to be willing to take 90, 80, 70, a lot less. Remember my example about Airbnb. I had to move over move out of my house for 3 weeks while they did some remodeling here and whatnot and repaired some leak that I had, right? I was gone for 3 weeks and I rented a place on Airbnb and they asked for 6,700 euros for the 3 weeks. And I offered a quarter of that. I offered them 1,700 euros. I sent the message, so like a Hail Mary pass. And half an hour later, they replied saying, yes. What's that tell you? Yeah. And that's just one story of Airbnb. That's happening across the whole economy. So you want to have money, you want to have cash, and paying off debt. No, let the debt accumulate. When do you invest? What do you invest in? That's the issue. What do you invest in? And I said in a previous, in webinar number 3 that I had to re-record, and I didn't like how webinar number 3, the re-recording came. I might even do it again because I don't feel I had like good energy on that webinar. But anyway, that's besides the point. In that one, what I said that I personally, when I invest, I buy income streams because that's what investment is. You are buying income streams. It doesn't matter what the underlying asset is. It can be commodities, it can be stocks, it can be bonds, it can be real estate, whatever it is, it has to be producing an income. That's the point of it, okay? Commodities by definition do not produce income. Stocks, only those companies that put out a dividend, those produce an income. But because of the current circumstances of the last few decades, plural decades, most companies don't really release dividends, or they do, it's so trivial that it's not even worth talking about. Bonds, yeah, they put out dividend, but again, because of the cheap money policies, the hyper low interest rate policies of the Federal Reserve and the other central banks around the world, bonds yield is very, very low. The same happens with real estate, and so you're constantly chasing yields. But now you're going to have better yields in this deflationary period. But what you're going to have to do is invest in that thing that guarantees having a strong yield long term. That's the key issue, okay? And that you have to do your due diligence. Because see, Dan is saying, when is a good time to invest in the stock market? And this has been incredibly long to get to this point, but I hope you've been patient with me. See, when you invest, you want to buy an income stream. When you are investing, quote unquote, in something, hoping to sell it later at a higher price, that's not investing, that's trading. Trading then becomes an issue of hopping on and hopping off the train. You hop on it when it's at a low price and you hop off it when it's at a high price. That's trading. Maybe you hop on it in the morning and hop off it in the afternoon. Maybe you hop on it, at the first of the month and hop off it, a year later. But you're still hopping on and hopping off, trying to make money in the price differential. That is not investing. Investing is buying an income stream, money that comes in and you don't have to worry about it. What opportunities are there going to be to invest? We don't know yet, because there are so many variables going on. It's not going to be the stock market. That I can tell you, because all the companies that are going to survive, they're going to be shrinking. And what shrinking companies means, their stock price goes down and their dividends go down because they're trying to survive. They're not going to be putting out money via dividends. They'd be crazy to. They want to hold on to their cash so that they can survive. So from my point of view, for the foreseeable future, next 5 years, there isn't going to be a moment to invest in, by my definition, invest in the stock market. Will there be opportunities to make tons of money because, the Fed fell in love with some particular sector of the economy and props up the stock prices of all the big players in that particular sector? Fuck yeah. But, is that sustainable? No. You see, that's trading, but that's gambling. I'm not talking about investment. I'm talking about investment, okay? At this time, we don't know. And so what you want to be doing is husbanding your resources and protecting the resources you have against inflation, the inflationary push that's going to happen, because also there's going to be another issue insofar as inflation is concerned, which is that it will be to the benefit of a lot of companies for the currency to inflate away their debts. Because that's the thing, see? Inflation is fantastic for people who are over indebted. Yeah, think about it. See, if I owe 100 today, but there's like, I don't know, like just for the sake of argument, there's a 5% per month inflation rate, which is astronomical, but just say 5% inflation rate per month. Well, the debt I had of 100 at the beginning of the month, in real terms at the end of the month, it's 5% less. I owe 95. I saved 5, right? And you keep on going, like this in this kind of regime, and your debts are going to become they're going to become fractions of what they used to be, okay? So inflation for somebody with debt is a fantastic thing. It's horrible for a person who is the owner of that debt, because the owner of that debt is going to get a lot less money, see? So that's the problem here. Okay, so you want to conserve your money. I've gone on 40 minutes on this fucking topic, so let me move on. Okay. So transitioning to the issue of women, a lot of people ask, and Karsten, are you there? Let me hit you up, Karsten. Hey, there's Karsten. Let me unmute you, and you hit me up with a question. Karsten, how's it going? You there? Hello, Karsten. Let me see. Oh, there's 2 Karstens. That's weird. Let me unmute the other Karsten. Karsten, hello, are you there? Oh, guys, you got to plug in your microphones. Okay, I'll try to catch it, Karsten, later when we get to the Q&A. Karsten asked, what are the similarities between business and dating? Because I mentioned this a few times. Yeah, it's very simple. See, in business, a lot of times you're selling something, okay? You're selling something, and or you could be in the situation of buying something, right? But either way, you want to make a trade. That's what's going on in business. You're trading. Think about it. Say, for instance, for the sake of argument, that you're a mechanic. Yeah, you fix cars, and some customer shows up, right? And so what's the trade going on? They are going to be trading their money for your services. That's what's going on. You want to go to a silver dealer and buy some silver, right? What's going on? You have cash and they have silver, and you want to make a trade. You're basically saying, I'll give you my cash and you give me the silver. In the first case, there was a transaction of an object for a service, and the other, there was a transaction between 2 people who both had objects that the other desired, right? Money in the case, right? And the great thing about money is that it's fungible, and so a lot of times instead of doing a trade between, like, I don't know, a bushel of wheat for an ounce of silver or some shit like that, you just swap cash, money, for the good or service or whatever, right? But it's always a trade. And what's dating? Let me rephrase. What's the man-woman relationship? Well, you are trading sexual attractiveness for mating privileges. Think about it, okay? By the way, if you notice there on the outline of today's today's episode, I'm going to be discussing edging the beta, and this is a central tenet or central issue of edging the beta, because it discusses how is it that men today are so lonely and miserable. Okay, that's the topic of edging the beta. And well, you have to start asking yourself, well, these guys, they're lonely and miserable because they can't get girls. And so how do you get a girl? Well, you got to trade. You got to trade for her. You're trading. What are you trading? Sexual attractiveness for mating privileges. You see? For sex. You see? And think about it. It's subtle, but then you start to think it. And for instance, let me give you an example. See, I'm a really handsome guy. Yeah, I'm a 10 on a 10 scale. I'm Brad Pitt, say. So I'm sexy. I'm sexually attractive. And so I walk along, and there's some girl there, and she's not as attractive as I am. And so she sees me, and she sees that I'm very attractive, and she's like, "How can I get him? I want him. How do I get him?" So she offers sex, which is perfectly normal. I mean, yeah, if I'm Brad Pitt and she's some girl who's like maybe a 7, maybe even an 8 on a 10 scale, right? But out of the league of a Brad Pitt. A Brad Pitt could be going out with Victoria's Secret models or whatever, right? So he is trading his sexual attractiveness for sex. Yeah, she's buying, she is selling, giving up her sex, her willingness to have sex for his sexual attractiveness, right? And say the opposite situation. You know, I'm like a very unattractive guy, very unattractive guy, and there's this gorgeous woman, and so she looks at me and she finds me of zero sexual attractiveness, and I find her incredibly sexy, and I want to have sex with her, yeah, but she doesn't want to have sex with me because she does not find me sexually attractive. How do I make her think I'm sexually attractive? I stimulate those things that she finds sexually attractive. A lot of guys will say, oh, it's money. No, it's not money. See, because if you just flash cash in a girl's face, she's not going to want to fuck you unless she's an actual prostitute. But then again, a prostitute will just say $500 and I'll fuck you. Okay. And that's a much more direct trade. In the informal trade, in the non-prostitution sense, an ugly guy can get the girl that he's sexually attracted to by offering her other things that she finds sexually attractive. Men find looks sexually attractive. No man on the face of the planet has ever said, yeah, she's kind of ugly, but she's got a great job in finance, and that's why I find her so sexy. That's never happened. Never, ever, ever happened, right? Because, look, guys only care about physical looks. They might care about personality secondarily. But, you know, professional achievements, educational achievements, they could give a rat's ass about that. They might admire a girl for it, but they don't care. They don't get turned on by it. I have never heard of a guy say, yeah, you know, she's really hot, you know, and she's got a great personality, but she only finished high school, you know, she never went to college, so I don't think I'm gonna be with her. You ever heard that? You ever heard some guy say that? Because I haven't. If you find that girl, that guy rather, who said that, who would be willing to give up a hot Victoria's Secret model who's just with a great personality, would be willing to give her up because she didn't finish high school, yeah, man, I don't think you're gonna find that guy anywhere, right? But see, a girl, she views the sexual attractiveness of a man not just physically. She views it as the physical as a component of other aspects. Immature girls only look at the looks of the guy. But mature girls, more thoughtful girls, and especially girls in this coming era of depression, where a guy's ability to provide is going to be very, very important, because these girls are not going to be able to provide for themselves. Well, what's going to happen there is that, see, they're going to find a lot of other things very, very sexually attractive. You do have to keep in mind this period that we're living in, where girls only looked at the guy's physical attractiveness. This is just a very recent thing and a temporary thing. Because for the most part, in the past, women didn't really care that much about a guy's looks. They cared more about his ability to provide for her. Read Pride and Prejudice. Elizabeth Bennet and her sisters, they are all worrying about the position of the men that they are pursuing, how much money they are earning. Not because they're gold diggers, they're not, but because they couldn't earn any money themselves at that period of time. And so their survival depended on finding a mate who could provide for them. And therefore, the mate who could provide for them was more sexually attractive than a guy who was just handsome. You know, he could be very handsome and great guy, but if he was a pauper, they wouldn't give him the time of day. See? So you understand that for women, what is sexually attractive is more complex than merely looks. For a man, it's only looks because looks are a reflection of her fitness to have children, you see? And whereas for women, a man's social position, that involves his wealth, of course, of how well off he is, but his social position, how well he fits into his community, his milieu, that counts for a lot more. You see, a lot more than his looks, because a woman has a child with a man and the man might be ugly, but if the man is well positioned socially, then her children have a higher chance of survival. Whereas for a man, if a man hooks up with a beautiful woman with long, shiny, healthy looking hair and nice nails, nice long nails that are not cracked or anything like that, Well, long nails and long shiny hair, what do they denote? Long-term health. Because see, if you've been malnourished for a period of time, or if you've suffered some severe disease, if you're a woman, your hair falls out, or your hair is very brittle. Your nails are very brittle. But if you have very healthy nails, and they're long, for a woman, of course, or long, shiny, thick hair, it means that the woman has been healthy for at least a couple of years, because that's how long it takes a woman to grow out long hair. And that is why men find women with thick, long hair sexier than girls with a buzz cut. You see? And yes, of course, there are exceptions, but you see the motivation here. But anyway, going back to this issue of the similarities between business and dating, there is a transaction going on. Men and women are exchanging sexual attractiveness for sex, for access to sex, which is the exact same thing that's going on in most business transactions. That's why the issue of sales is so important. When you study sales, how to make a sale in business, you can apply everything from that to dating. And how do you approach a sale? Do you go up to a potential customer and just slam them over the head and, hey, you have to buy it, it's so good, or stuff like that? No, it's subtle, it's soft. You draw them in. Learn techniques of sales and you will learn how to get a girl insofar as dates are concerned. That's the key issue. Yeah, okay, so moving on. Zarek asked about, let me see. Oh, and Zarek isn't here either. Jesus Christ, man, I put your guys' names there, man. You should be here. Zarek asked, girls who only have guy friends. Bottom line, don't trust them. Girls who only have guy friends are girls who like cock. Simple as that. They're cock hoppers, yeah. Or they want to have a guy around, you know, as like a standby kind of thing. Yeah. There's this girl I follow on Instagram, Madison Twos, and she's on lockdown and she's in this beautiful house that belongs to a beta orbiter. She's not boffing the beta orbiter, but somehow she has him around and she's living in his house during the lockdown. It's a great mansion kind of thing, but you know, he's appeared in a couple of like little of those Instagram moments or whatever, and he's kind of like a loser, you know. But of course, you know, she probably had like a tiny little apartment and she's going to be locked down for weeks and weeks and weeks. And so she glommed onto him and he's got like this great place, you know, but she's not giving him the time of day. She's never going to fuck him. No, of course not. Yeah. But he's her friend. And so girls like that are basically manipulative and they're using guys as beta orbiters to get what they want or as potential replacements for the boyfriend, you know, they're just sort of like on standby kind of thing. Those girls, see, they're not going to play ball insofar as a relationship with you is concerned. Play ball in the sense of like give and take. In every relationship, there is a give and take. When you're with a woman, sometimes she has to give and sometimes you have to give. Sometimes you take and sometimes she takes. And it's a negotiation. And that's quite normal. But see, if a girl has a lot of guy friends on the side, she's not fucking them perhaps. And she might say to you that she's genuinely just friends. But the thing is, see, she's going to have the upper hand because she's always going to be thinking, well, you know, if my boyfriend really makes my life difficult, I'll just dump him and pick from one of the people waiting in line, one of the guys waiting in line, one of my quote unquote guy friends. See? Yeah. And so you as a guy in a relationship, what do you want to do? You want to have girls who are your friends. And the funny thing is that, see, with guys, you know this because you're guys. I mean, my audience here, you all are guys. This is a giant sausage fest here, and I'm a sausage too. So I'm not, you know, putting anybody down. But the point is, see, we all know that if we know that some guy has a girlfriend, we don't want to be around the girlfriend, especially if we think that she's hot, because we're like, what the fuck am I doing? You know, she's with this other guy, and so it's better to put her out of my mind. The only guys who are around such a girl are these beta losers who are just, you know, with their tongues hanging out like hungry dogs waiting for some steak. You know what I mean? And so anyway, but see, women, when they know a guy is taken that has a woman, they are attracted to him. They want to be with him. And a lot of times they'll see some guy and she'll be like, whatever, he doesn't seem like much. but then they find out that he's got like a hot girlfriend and the girl will want to be his friend, quote unquote. And it's like an unconscious thing. And I've noticed it's happened to me many, many times, that whenever I'm dating somebody who is very attractive, all of a sudden these very attractive girls start hanging out with me. And it's clear that they're trying to undercut my girlfriend. It's creepy, but it's true. It happens all the time. Yeah, yeah. So anyway, girls who only have guy friends, you avoid them, because you are not going to have the upper hand. If you have, as a guy in a relationship, have a lot of girls who are friends floating around, you're going to have the upper hand in the relationship. You want to do that? Go ahead, be my guest, but understand the dynamic. See? Because you see, in any relationship, the person who has options is in control of the relationship. So you want to make it clear to your woman that you have options, that if she doesn't play ball with you and do what you want, you'll just dump her and go to one of the other girls who are waiting around. And a girl who has guy friends, well, that's the signal she's putting out to you, whether it be conscious or not, okay? She's basically signaling that if you don't play ball with her, she'll dump you and go with somebody else. Okay, managing narcissistic people, narcissistic girls. Ryling, who also isn't present, Ryling came up with this question. A lot of people gave it a thumbs up. And Yuri said, hat tip to Yuri, he said, go for the gray rock method. I'd never heard of the gray rock method. I looked it up. And the gray rock method is basically pretending to be a gray rock. You know those river rocks that they've been all like rounded over because of the water, right? Yeah, and they're round and gray and just boring and just sit there and they don't do anything. So that's basically the approach of the gray rock method insofar as narcissists are concerned, because they get bored and they move on. Yeah, because if you're not giving them any feedback, any drama, anything, you're not reacting to them, just sort of like ignoring them, pretending that you don't exist, they're going to get bored of you and move on. Now, of course, you don't want to be in a relationship with a girl like that. I mean, no matter how hot she is, okay? And a lot of hot girls are like this, okay? Or more to the point, a lot of narcissists are hot girls, because of course what happens is that, see, a girl who's a narcissist but ugly, she ain't gonna get far. She's not gonna be able to develop her narcissism, because everybody's gonna be like, who the fuck are you? You're just some fat ugly chick. And it'll just puncture the ego of the narcissistic girl, and so she won't be narcissistic. See? That's why the narcissists that you wind up seeing, they tend to be very attractive women. Yeah, because it's evolution in the literal sense, and that the herd of narcissists is thinned out by the other people in society that are not narcissistic. And how are they thinned out? Well, the girls who are not that attractive, well, they're not given the time of day. They can be as narcissistic as they want, and nobody pays attention to them. And therefore, they stop being narcissistic. The only problem going on nowadays is that a lot of girls, no matter how ugly, with this whole self-esteem movement bullshit, right? Everybody has to have self-esteem and all that. A lot of really ugly girls have this overinflated sense of how attractive they are. They are narcissists and they're ugly. This wasn't the case when I was young. When I was young, I mean, talking the 70s, 80s, 90s, you know, some ugly girl who acted like all narcissistic, everybody was like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And they tell her, right? And that quickly ended any illusions she might have, because basically the society was not indulging in her narcissism. But this is no longer the case, now is it? We have this stupid movement, beautiful at any weight or some shit like that, or healthy at any weight. Fat is beautiful, some shit like that. You got these land whales, these porkers. I mean, goddamn, these women that weigh about 1,000 pounds. These women who, if they fell into this webinar, would squash us all. Yeah, think about that. We are in separate countries and separate continents, for crying out loud. But if one of these porkers fell on us, we'd all be dead. It would be like a nuclear bomb. We'd all go splat underneath the weight of all that grease and fat and lard that they've eaten to become these huge land whales, and they think that they're hot. But that's the truth, man. So anyway, how do you deal with narcissists and bipolar people? Well, the simple answer is you avoid them. Simple as that. life is short. You don't want to be dealing with horrible people. A narcissist is just an awful person. Now, if the person has some redeeming qualities or has a little bit of self-reflection, maybe you're able to pull them out of this narcissism. Maybe, okay? But you have to be very conservative as to whether you can or not, because most narcissists, why are they narcissistic? Because a lot of people in their environment, feed into the narcissism, making them think that there's so much that and more. You know what I mean? So it's going to be real hard. As to bipolar people, avoid them. Bipolar people, they're just fucking sick. Bipolar people, sometimes they're up and sometimes they're down. That kind of yo-yoing, it just exhausts anybody, any guy. And a lot of times these bipolar girls, yeah, when they get into the manic stage, they wind up going off and fucking whoever crosses their path. Sometimes when they're depressed, they go around fucking whoever crosses their path. Yeah, no, who needs that? Okay, it's never happened to me, thank God, because perhaps I am too narcissistic myself to put up with some girl who's a bipolar mess. Yeah, the times that I've had to deal with some girl who's like an up and down yo-yo, I'm like, fuck this, I can do better. And that's the thing. You have to know in your bones that you deserve better and you can get better. And I'm telling you that you can. Okay? Because nobody deserves to be with a bipolar mess. And you can get a better girl. You can. Because if you got that girl, then odds are pretty good that you can get another one just like her, but without that problem of her being bipolar or narcissistic or whatever the fuck. So you have to have some self-confidence in that regard. You have to say, these are my red lines. And if you cross them, if I realize that you are a narcissist or are bipolar or whatever, I am going to leave you. And there's not going to be any backseas or any shit like that. I'm going to leave you and that'll be that. You have to believe that in your bones and you have to act on that. Yeah. Walk away from them. Now, if they are in your life, like they are a sibling, a parent, or a sibling-in-law, sister-in-law, brother-in-law, something like that, that you can't get out of it, well, then do the gray rock method. Yeah, absolutely. Yuri is absolutely right. If they are a family member that you can't get rid of, okay, then gray rock. And they'll ignore you and get bored with you and wander off and annoy somebody else, okay? If they are a worker, a co-worker rather, try to get away from them, yeah? If they're an employee, dump them. If they're a boss, quit. You don't want to be around these people. Why? Why would you want to have somebody who just pulls you down and sucks your energy? That's the issue, see? Because you have a limited amount of time on this earth, but you also have a limited amount of energy. You don't want to be squandering your energy on worthless people. See what I'm saying? Okay. Now, Roberto asked, let me see if I can get Roberto, because it seems that he's on, and I'm unmuting you. Roberto, are you there? Hello, Roberto. Oh, let me see the other line. I'm unmuting the other one. Roberto, are you there? Hello. 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 I guess not. That's a pity. Roberto asked, how do you spot envious people? That's a good question. Now, I'll tell you in my own experience, I'm lousy at spotting envious people. Or let me phrase that. For many decades, plural, I didn't realize that people were envious of me because I'm not an envious guy, just constitutionally. Somebody has a Ferrari. I'm like, lucky bastard. If somebody has a hot girlfriend, lucky bastard. But do I want to be him? Am I angry at him for having the Ferrari, for having the hot girl? No, it doesn't bother me. I certainly wish that I had a Ferrari. I wish that I had a hot girlfriend, but it's not something that weighs on me or makes me dislike the guy who has those things. More often than not, I'll be curious to know how he got them. And more often than not, because it's just my nature, I'll be curious to know what are the hidden costs of having those things, of having the hot girlfriend, of having the Ferrari. There's also an obvious thing too, is that my ego, my belief in myself, since I was very young, I always thought that I could get a hot girlfriend and I could get a Ferrari. both of which are true, because if I wanted to, I can purchase a Ferrari today. And I mean, it sounds like an asshole thing to say. I don't mean in an asshole-ish way, but it's a statement of fact. And if I wanted to get a hot girlfriend, well, I've gotten hot girlfriends, really hot girlfriends, you know? And when I was living in New York, when I was, what, 30, 32, I had a girl who was on the Sports Illustrated, for crying out loud. I'm not going to tell you which one, but I did have one. And she didn't become like famous, but she was in Sports Illustrated for a fucking good reason. She was fucking hot. But the point I'm trying to make is that, see, I had an ego, not a narcissistic ego. Perhaps I was arrogant and full of myself, but not like a narcissist, not like a total shithead. But I had the belief in myself that I could get such a thing. I could get a Ferrari, could get a hot girlfriend. So I never envied anybody. I never envied anybody's success. I was always accepting of it, because, or more often than not, if somebody was successful at something that I was uninterested in, it didn't affect me. And if somebody was successful at something that I was interested in, I always thought to myself, I can be there. I will be there. Okay. And so that's why I never developed a sense of envy. And for that reason, I never realized when other people were envious of me. Okay. So I have to admit that I do have a blind spot for envious people. It takes me a while to realize that they're envious. And sometimes I have to think about it. Okay. Sometimes I realize that some people have a very negative attitude towards me because of envy. And the funny thing is that, see, a lot of times I say, why would they envy me? You know, my life has so many problems. Why on earth would they envy me? Because, of course, I'm not focusing on the good things of my life. Because more often than not, and it's quite natural, we wind up focusing on the things that aren't going well in our lives. We focus on the things that are difficult. We don't focus on the things that are going fine. A simple example, we're saying, oh, you know, I have this paper thing, or this, I have to deliver this paper and I don't know if I can make it, and my grades suck in this class, and blah, blah, blah. And we don't realize that, hey, we're going to an Ivy League school, we're perfectly healthy, we don't have any kind of health issue, and we're at this Ivy League school and we're doing great. But we focus on the fact that, you know, we have this paper to deliver and we haven't done the work for it, some shit like that. You see what I'm saying? We don't focus on the big picture. And so I'm sort of avoiding the issue of how to spot an envious person, because I don't think that there's actually like a one size fits all. But you have to be careful about envious people. You have to be careful. And like I said, for me, it's a bit of a blind spot. I sort of like miss when people are envious of me, because like I said, I am not envious by nature, not at all. I'm happy for other people. I'm thinking to myself, back in August, I went to the wedding of a couple of friends of mine in Austria, and they had this beautiful, beautiful wedding. It was lovely. And it was in Austria, in this ruins of this beautiful castle. And the bride was lovely, and the groom was very handsome, and lovely, lovely people. And they were all surrounded by their families and whatnot. It was like really a picture perfect wedding. And it was something that I found incredibly lovely. And I can say hand to heart that I didn't envy them at all. Yeah. I mean, I was delighted for them and not envious, but there are some people who would be envious of them. And I know for a fact that there were some people at that wedding who were envious of them and sort of like resented them. I don't understand that. I don't. And so that's why I'm not the best person to ask about this, you know, but I'll give it some more thought. Okay. Anonymous asked, if you're middle-aged, how to get hotties attracted to you? Okay. Because he was saying that he's like in his 30s, and he was saying that his experience with girls like in their early 20s, that they wouldn't date any guy over 30. Okay. Well, yeah, you have to understand how to handle young girls, okay? Because a lot of guys make the mistake, let me phrase it, most guys of any age will make the mistake of pandering to a girl, especially an attractive girl. They pander to her. What do I mean? They try to listen to them and say what they think the girl wants to hear, okay? And see, since they're guys, guys like it when other guys agree with them. And so they try to agree with a girl. But a girl doesn't like a guy who agrees with her. Doesn't like that guy at all, because if a guy agrees with her, he's no challenge. to her, see? Because girls love a challenge, okay? I once heard this line that was fantastic, you know, because I'm an older guy, I'm 52, and I tend to date girls in their early 20s, because that's the kind of girl I like, period. And I heard this line a number of years ago. It was fantastic. You're sitting at a bar, you're an older guy, and some hot young thing is right next to you, and you turn to her and say, "Hey, how's it going?" You know, whatever. And she comes at you and she says, "Aren't you old, a little too old to be here trying to pick me up?" Something like that, something aggressive and nasty. And see, the line is, "Yeah, I'm old enough to be your father. So what the hell are you doing in a place like this at this hour?" And the thing is, I heard this line years ago and I tried it and it fucking worked. It worked like a charm. Yeah. Because if you acknowledge the age disparity, the reality, just acknowledge it, just head on and make a joke of it. Girl has no place to go. So she has to laugh about it. And of course, when she laughs about it and she's pushed back, she's on her back heel, on her back foot, right? Then she can't attack you anymore. And then she realizes that you're not a guy to mess with and that you're not trying to pander to her. See? Because a girl hates it when you pander to them, especially attractive girls. Because attractive girls, the reality is, and this has always been true, that there are two worlds in this world. There's the world of normal looking people and ugly people, and there's the world of pretty people. Pretty people get everything that they want because people naturally will just smile and look at them and be delighted by the fact that they're attractive and give them whatever they want. It's human nature, and to fight it and argue about it and bitch about it and legislate against it and whatnot, it's just a waste of time. It's just the way we are. Don't worry about it. Because of course, what happens is that attractive people, it means that they are more likely to successfully procreate. And we as human beings are hardwired to desire that for our species. And therefore, that's why we like attractive people. Why the fuck do you think that we look at movie stars? Because what? We like ugly movie stars? No, they're all attractive, incredibly attractive. That's why we like them. Even the ones who are not that attractive are actually very attractive. I mean, look at Kevin Spacey, for instance. He's an older guy. And you say to yourself, well, he's not that attractive. No, he is. He's an attractive older guy. Yeah. I mean, he's gay and all that. But if you weren't gay, if you were like normal guy and just like look at him objectively, yeah, lots of girls would like to boff his ass. Look at what's his face, the actor from Schindler's List, the Irish guy, the one in Taken. His name slips my mind. Liam Neeson. Liam Neeson. The guy's in his mid-late 60s. I bet I could rustle up a bunch of hot 20-year-olds who'd love to just boff the ever-living shit out of him, boff his brains out. Yeah, boff him all night. Fuck yeah. Yeah, and he's an older guy because he's attractive. And so, yeah. But the thing is, see, men respond strictly to physical attractiveness, but women, like I said before, respond to sex appeal. And sex appeal is not only physical attractiveness. It depends also in how you comport yourself, because how you comport yourself, your behavior, denotes your social position. You're dealing with some bratty girl, and you basically like blow her off, and automatically you're establishing yourself as being socially superior, and you don't need her. And what you have to do in order to handle handle a young girl is treat them like a bratty kid, just an annoying kid. How do you treat an annoying 8-year-old? Okay, I imagine that you just sort of like blow them off and just like, oh, come on, just get away from me, just stop bothering me. And when they say something stupid, what do you say? You say, that's foolish. Why are you saying that? That's ridiculous. Because what do beta guys do? A girl says, oh yeah, 2 + 2 is 5 and the sky is green. And the beta guy will say, yeah, absolutely, you're absolutely right, you know. Yeah, 2 + 2 is 5 and the sky is green. Yeah, I don't know why people say it's 4. I don't know why they say it's blue. That's bullshit. Everybody knows 2 + 2 is 5 and the sky is green. And girls, they fundamentally know that they're wrong, okay? They might not even admit to themselves, but what they're looking for is somebody to say no. They want that. They need that. And that's the paradox. See, in this society, in the current environment that we're living in, where girls, especially pretty young girls, are always said yes to. When you treat them like a child, an annoying child, and you keep saying no to them, they just keep running after you. It's as simple as that. You just blow them off and they keep running. Yeah. Yeah. They text you and you text them right back and you say, yes, yes, yes. 2 + 2 is 5 and the sky is green. They're going to blow you off. Girl texts you and you ignore it for a day and you're like, oh, I was busy with somebody else. She's going to get all kinds of pictures in her head. She's going to get insecure because you're blowing her off. You're not paying attention to her. And worse, you're creating the conditions, or you're implying that you are with somebody else, somebody better. Yeah. And you don't say, oh yeah, I was with my buddy Doug and we were fixing the car. No, you make something up in worst case scenario. I mean, if you actually were with Doug fixing the car, you don't fucking say that. You say, oh, I was with a friend. Oh, she's just an old girlfriend. We were just hanging out, having a drink. You leave it at that. Hmm? You see what I mean? Yeah. You treat them like a bratty child. Yeah. Okay, moving on. Stefan asked, let me find Stefan here. And Stefan isn't here. Jesus Christ, man. If I were taking attendance, man, all you guys that I gave hat tips to, all you guys would get an F for fail. God damn you. God damn you to hell. No, of course not. I'm just teasing. But Stefan asked how to remain motivated. And O'Michael, I saw O'Michael here before. Is he? There we are. Let me unmute O'Michael. O'Michael, how's it going?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. What's up?
Nothing much. Just quarantined up.
Yeah, where are you, by the way? Just city
Uh,
or country?
I'm in the UK.
Mm. And
Yeah.
yeah, well, I know that over there it's pretty draconian. They really got you locked down tight, huh?
Well, if you can avoid the police, it's all good. But yeah,
Oh God,
tough time.
you're like a criminal for going out of your house?
The police were what's the word? Flexing about how good they were at catching people at parks. So it's a bit funny.
No, it's fucking tragic. What the fuck is the matter with these people?
Yeah,
Okay,
it's more of a public appearance.
I know. It's absurd, and we'll get to that in a minute. But great to have you on, man. And by the way, why do you call yourself O Michael T Michael? Is there a reason, or it's an inside joke?
Oh no reason. It was just convenient.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Well, O Michael, you asked a question on the comment section. Why don't you hit us all with it?
Yeah, it was basically at the moment I'm studying university computer science and
Hmm.
I'm doing coursework and
Hmm.
the deadlines are the motivation at the moment. But when
Yeah,
it gets to when it's all over for the term, I'm eventually going to go home and have basically a bunch of free time.
yeah.
But the thing is, I've got stuff to do, but I don't have the same motivation as the deadlines for the coursework, right?
Sure, of course.
So I'm just like, how do you keep pushing yourself to carry on doing stuff like
That's an
consistently
excellent
instead of
question.
stagnating?
That's an excellent question. Let me give you an example or a hypothetical. I've got a stick. You know, it's about a meter long, right? And you know, if you don't do what I want, I'm gonna hit your legs with it. I'm gonna swing my stick and hit your knees, your calves, your thighs with the stick, right? How do you feel about that?
Um, not feeling pleasant, but yeah,
Yeah, but you'll do what I want, right? I mean,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, this is hypothetical, okay? Yeah, but suppose I wave like a stack of 100-pound notes in front of your face, and it's a stack that's thick enough that you figure there must be about 100-pound notes, so it's 10,000 pounds. I'm flashing in your face and like, do what I want, and you'll get a piece of this stack. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I'm pretty happy.
Yeah, sure, and you're going to do whatever I ask, right?
Yeah.
In both cases, you're going to do what I ask. In one, you're avoiding pain. In the other, you're pursuing pleasure or pursuing something positive, right?
Yeah.
In both cases, you're doing it, right? Okay.
Yep.
Now, in the case of your schoolwork and your deadlines, you're doing something because you're afraid of getting hit with a stick, i.e. a bad
Yeah.
grade that will make your life difficult in your university, right? You're not
Yeah.
pursuing anything positive. You're just trying to avoid the stick, right?
Yep.
Okay. Your goal to go to university is a flashing wad of 100-pound notes. That's what it is. That's why you're going to university. You're saying, you know, I'm going to university to get a degree so I can get a good career, right?
Yeah.
i.e.
Yeah.
I'm pursuing waving bills in my face, right? But the problem is that, see, that positive motivation is so far away, and that's the problem, okay? It feels, especially because you're young. How old are you? In your early 20s, I take it?
Yeah. 21.
Okay, you're 21. And so
Yeah. The glory days.
university, yeah, university for you is what, 4 years? That's, and you started at 18?
Yeah.
So that's roughly 22% of your life. Yeah, that's a long fucking time, right? I mean, I'm an old fart of 52, right? 4 years for
Mhm.
me is less than 10%. It's what, roughly 8%, I guess. Yeah, no problem. I can do 4 years. Sure, I can sleep through 4 years, no problem. You know, I won't even notice it because I'm an old fart. I've got all these years behind me. 4 more years, nothing, right? But for
Yeah.
you, it's a bigger percentage of your life. And so for you, those waving, that waving wad of 100-pound notes is so far ahead of you that you don't even see it. You're just really pursuing it because people have told you, okay? You don't really even believe it because, like I said, it's so far away from you. And so what you
Mhm.
want to do is find a positive reinforcement that's closer insofar as time is concerned. See? When you have a goal that you are attracted to, it could be a wad of cash, it could be just personal satisfaction, it doesn't matter what the goal is, but it has to be something positive, something that you strive towards because you really want that thing. And it's not something vague, okay? It's something like really concrete. Because if you aim for something vague, it's like it's vague, it just floats away and it's like smoke, it becomes nothing. You want it to be concrete and in the future that you can see it, okay? A lot of times you
Yeah.
can picture it in your mind. It's perhaps it's a circumstance that you want to achieve, right? So and anyway, the point is, see, you have to find a positive goal that is closer in in time, and it's of course different for every person. Not only different because of age or occupation, but also because of just personality. Okay, we could be identical in all regards, same age, same university, same course of study, but we could be driven by vastly different things in the future that we find totally different. Perhaps you're in computer science and you want to build a competitor Microsoft, and whereas I'm interested in pursuing computer science so I can be a professor. You see my point? We can be
Yeah.
identical, but it's different for each one. So that's why you have to figure this out on your own. Nobody can really help you. Your friends can help you to talk you through it so that you can verbalize what you're thinking, which is always very important. But you see, if you're aiming for something and striving towards something, if it's far away or diffuse, imagine yourself walking through, walking forward in a fog, and you don't see the future. It's too far away. It's too nebulous, right? But if you see, like, I'll tell you a specific example. Okay, this is gonna, if people decide to quit the webinar right now with the story that I'm about to tell, well, I won't mind because I figure that I've given you an hour and a half of content, and so I'll tell you this story. This is a true story. I was walking home the other day. I was walking from my office, right? It's a 2.5 kilometer walk, right? And about halfway through, I had to pee. I had to pee in the worst fucking way, right? I mean, I really had to pee, It was like it just suddenly came. And I just started walking faster, right? And just trying to hold it in. And I'm going as fast as possible. And you know what I'm thinking in my head? I'm picturing, my toilet. Okay. In my house is multiple stories, right? And it's in the canal area near the train station here in Amsterdam, in the Jordan area. And I'm walking to the house, you know, I've got like over a kilometer to get there, right? And I'm walking as fast as possible. And in my head, I'm planning, you know, how I'm gonna pee, okay? Because like when you get to my house, you the door is of course on the ground floor, but you open the door and you have to go right up some stairs, right? Because my house, it's the whole house except for the ground floor, which is a parking lot, parking garage. So you go up the stairs, you open the door and you go right up these stairs, and right there at the landing on the first floor is the guest bathroom. It's just a toilet and a wash basin, right? And I was thinking, yeah, that's where I'm gonna pee, you know, and that was my goal. And I was going so fast, you know, it was like my positive goal, okay? And I was walking towards it as quickly as possible and imagining it. I was imagining every little detail of that particular bathroom, right? And that was my positive goal. There wasn't anybody behind me trying to hit me with a stick, right? No, I was walking quickly, but not too quickly, because I thought to myself, if I walk too quickly, I might start just peeing myself, man. Who knows? You know, I was like one of those very amusing incidents. But the point, and the serious point, I had this positive goal, and it was very clear in my head. Okay. Of course, I didn't pee myself, and thank God. And I got there and I peed, and everything was fine. But it's helpful for this situation as a metaphor. You have to imagine that place where you want to be, and that will motivate you. A stick behind you, yes, it will get you going. And sometimes you yourself provide that stick. You yourself sort of like force yourself to get up, to go to work. You know, you sort of like mentally castigate yourself in order to achieve something. But you have to understand that that might be useful in the short term, but you're always going to be doing things begrudgingly, not because you want to, but because you need to in order to avoid pain, which is very different. Okay.
Yeah.
What you want to do is you want to be picturing that thing in the future that you want. And it can't be so far away that it's like a mirage. It has to be close
What time
enough.
scale are we talking about? Like a
I
year
beg your
or
pardon? I beg
a
your
time
pardon?
scale? Time
Well,
scale, is it like a year?
yeah, but it's going to be different for different people. Okay.
No.
I would suggest too that you can start practicing this. Practicing having a positive vision for yourself at the end of a certain process. For instance, you have a paper, right? And right now your paper or your exams or whatever, your motivation is you don't want to get hit by the stick. You don't want to get like wrapped on their knees or your calves or your thighs with a stick, right? You don't want to get a bad
Yeah.
grade. So why don't you think the opposite? Consciously think to yourself, the satisfaction you will feel by getting a top grade. There was a period of time when I was very young, when I was a junior in high school, that I got into this streak of getting 100% in math. And it became this competition with a few of my classmates because we were all math geeks, right? And we had this professor who we hated, and he kind of like hated us too. And we worked so hard to get 100%. And he was like a tough grader. He was a hard son of a bitch, right? And it was trimesters, with 3 trimesters. And I got like a 95 in the first trimester and a 97 perhaps in the third trimester. But I remember the second trimester, I got 100%. And every week rather, we had these quizzes, right? And they were tough quizzes. And we were doing like, I think we were doing trigonometry. And yeah, I think it was trigonometry or pre-calc, it doesn't matter. And I remember like every week that we'd have these quizzes, I was thinking to myself, I want to get 100%. I want to get 100%. And it was this incredible motivation. I learned more that year than I ever did in any other year because of this drive of just so desiring that 100%, because I wanted to beat my classmates and I wanted to show up this asshole teacher. And that kind of positive goal was the best
It's like
motivation.
the underdog story. The underdog story.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And so you have to structure your head, and you can do this deliberately. Think to yourself of how to do it so that you're pursuing something positive that you want to achieve. You see?
Yeah. But in terms of the planning part, once you have the goal, how would you structure it? Right? Let's say, would you start by setting like monthly goals, or is it like more? I don't know. Like, how would you plan it out?
Okay, what kind of long-term goal you're thinking? Like, say, for the sake of argument, for this conversation, you want to be an astronaut and you want to be the first Brit to land on the moon. I'm making this up. So how would you go about becoming an astronaut? Okay, well, you're going to have to learn certain things, right? Learn physics, for instance, and learn how to fly an aircraft. And then you take those big goals, or let me phrase it. You have the big goal of being an astronaut. And then you have the sub goals in order to achieve this big goal of learning physics and jet propulsion, whatever, and also learning to fly aircraft. Those are two big sub goals. And each of those sub goals, you start breaking it down, okay? But always keep in mind the long-term goal. Always keep in mind that you want to be an astronaut. And most important of all, thinking to yourself, imagining yourself being that astronaut, stepping off that lunar landing module and bouncing on the 1/6 gravity of the moon. See, like imagining every little detail of a goal that's decades away. You see?
Yeah. Yeah.
But always break it down. I mean, think of it like calculus. I love calculus because what does calculus teach us? It teaches us that you cannot figure out the area under a curve, but if you break down all that area underneath the curve, then you can figure out the area of the curve. You break it down into smaller bits. If you keep it one big bit, it's impossible. You're never going to be able to achieve it. You break it into small pieces and it's achievable.
Okay.
Another thing, and as I'm discussing, and sorry I don't mean to speak over you, but I wanted to get this point. There's something else that occurred to me, and I want to catch this idea. When I was little, I was into plastic models, before I discovered girls. I love to build like tanks and motorcycles and and F1 cars, that kind of stuff, right? And and when you put together a plastic model, it's all these little pieces, and they're all these little sub-assemblies, right? You want to build, like, for instance, a Formula One racer, and you have to take all the pieces that will become the engine, and take those pieces off the little plastic trees that hold the pieces, right? And you take them all apart, and you dry fit them first, and then you sand them down, and then you paint each piece, and it's each a discrete little step that you have to do. You have to take each piece and take it off the tree, but carefully so that you don't rip apart some of the piece itself. And then you have to sand down the piece so that it's smooth, and then paint the piece, and then set it together with the other pieces until you have the final engine, but which is only a sub-assembly. It's just part of the overall little model that you're building, right? Think of it in those terms, that each little thing that you're doing adds up in a sub-assembly of a larger construct.
Okay. Actually, can I ask a smaller question as well?
Whatever.
How would you stop to overthinking stuff, the small stuff?
Oh, that's easy. Just go ahead. Just do something quickly. Yeah.
Quickly. Okay.
Yeah, because what happens is that overthinking comes from idleness. Think of it like when you're jumping into a cold lake. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
you're there, you're standing, and you dip a toe in. Oh God, it's really fucking cold. And you stand around, try to dump it. Oh man, it's cold, and I'm shivering now. Imagine when I'm in the water, and you go on and on and on like a little fucking bitch, right? And I'm saying that you're going around like a little fucking bitch, but I remember plenty of times when I was going around like a little fucking bitch, right? I'm like, oh, it's so cold, and like, oh, I don't want it, and like a little girl, man, yeah. And what's smarter, doing that, or like you see a lake and you see a pier and you say, okay, first one in, the last one in is a rotten egg, and you just run as fast as you can, just jump into the lake. Yeah, you jump in right away without thinking about it. Speed overruns thinking. That's what you want to be doing. The faster you do something. Hmm?
How would you use that within dealing with people? Because I tend to have a habit of like overthinking when it comes to dealing with people.
Well, just dive in. You just
Okay.
move forward. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't worry about making a fool of yourself, because if you stop and worry about making a fool of yourself, then you will make a fool of yourself. Okay.
Mm.
And you have to recognize something else. Most people feel exactly the same way as you. Okay. And they're as nervous and insecure as you are. And that gives you the opportunity to take control of the situation.
Yeah.
For instance,
Okay.
you meet somebody and they're like a little standoffish and you think they don't like me. You know what he's thinking? He's thinking, oh, how do I deal with this guy? What do I say to him? You know, what do I say to Michael? And
Mm.
you're both thinking the same thing. You're thinking, oh, how do I do it? Right? If you recognize that the other guy is thinking the exact same thing as you are, that he's insecure and nervous, then you can realize, oh, what I have to do is just step forward and say, hey, how's it going? Just shake his hand, clap him on the shoulder. Nice to meet you, John, or whatever. And all of a sudden he's going to be like, ah, because you're leading. And so he'll just be
Okay.
reacting, and he'll be happily reacting, because if you're taking control of a situation, just diving into it, okay? The metaphor of the lake, always remember, you're just diving into it. You're not hesitating, you're not dithering, you're just diving into it. You grab him by the hand, you shake his hand, you clap him on the shoulder. And when you do that, people automatically feel a sense of intimacy, regardless of
Mm.
this stupid coronavirus crap. But when you take control of a situation like that and you clap them on the shoulder, shake their hand, you smile at them, and not in a fake way or a condescending way, but in a genuine way. And you recognize, you have the humility and the grace to recognize that that person you're speaking to is probably as insecure and nervous as you are. And if you just go forward and dive in and take control of the situation, he will like you for it and feel like he wants to be your friend or be in your good graces, because he will appreciate the fact that you took control of the situation, right? And
Mm.
he will automatically follow you and do what you want, because you were the one with the initiative. See? You always want to be doing that. You take the initiative. See?
Yeah. Nice, man. Cheers for that.
Yeah. I hope it helps, man.
Yeah, it really did.
I'm glad. I'm glad. Okay, let me move on, because I got to find AR. Great talking to you, old Michael.
See you,
Hey,
man.
will I see you next week?
Yeah. It's every Friday, right? I just joined, so
Oh yeah, it's every Sunday. Every Sunday. So
every
looking
Sunday.
forward to it,
Yeah.
man. Take it easy.
Okay.
Talk to you soon.
See
Bye.
ya. Bye.
And let's get to AR. AR. No, AR. AR. Jesus Christ, man. The only one who's getting a passing grade right now is Oh Michael. All you other fuckers, AR, Stefan, Anonymous, who is it? Yuri, Zarak, you are all failing. You are absentees on my book. Naughty, naughty. Predictions for the next decade. Anything can happen, man. Anything can happen. I wanted to talk to AR specifically about that, what he meant specifically, because a lot of people want to know what predictions I have for the future. Dude, I don't have a crystal ball, but what I can say is that the next few years are going to be rough as hell. Simple as that. And it's obvious. I mean, this whole coronavirus, I have said before, and I'll say it again. The coronavirus is not the cause of this depression. It's just the trigger. It's just the needle that popped the balloon. But the balloon was overinflated and was going to pop anyway. Okay. This is the trigger, the straw that broke the camel's back. Okay. Were we in a healthier economy? Had it been that back in 2008, the financial sins had been paid for and the bad banks had been bankrupted and the bad debts had been purged, we would be fine for this pandemic. We would shut down the economy, we'd go through a few months of this shit, and then we'd come out fine on the other end, and everything would pick up lickety split like nothing had happened, and we move on. But the fuckers back in 2008, they threw money at the problem. They propped up insolvent institutions with more and more debt. And all this debt has accumulated from 2008 to 2020, and now we're going to pay for it. And they're still trying to push more debt on people to solve the situation. But it's a demand-driven depression. The lack of demand is the reason that we are going into depression, okay? And it's unavoidable. So anyway, we're going to go into the depression. That's the only hard prediction I could make. The other prediction I would make is that if Trump wins re-election, which is odds are at this time very likely, but I could be completely wrong. If we win re-election in 2024, the Democratic Party is going to field a candidate who is going to be totalitarian. Simple as that. And the fact is, even if the Democrats win this time around with Biden or some other candidate, I have said before that I think that they're going to wind up posting Hillary Clinton, or I have an addendum to that, or Kamala Harris. But I think it's going to be Hillary Clinton. I think that what's going to happen is that between the Me Too of Joe Biden, the Me Tooing rather of Joe Biden, and the dementia, they're going to shove him aside and replace him with Hillary. Yeah. By the time of the Democratic National Convention, there won't be a convention because of coronavirus, but the Democratic National Committee will announce that Joe Biden is a rapist and he's senile, so we have to get a woman. And who better woman to do it than, ta-da, Hillary or Kamala Harris, but I think it's more likely Hillary, but be that as it may. If the Democrats win in 2020, and certainly when they win in 2024, they are going to be totalitarian. It's going to be a fucking nightmare. It's going to be nasty shit. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to it. Okay, and Humphrey, are you there? Humphrey, please be, and he's not here either. Come on, guys. Humphrey, he wanted to know the positive lessons from the quarantine. And Carmen, I think I saw him. Carmen, there you are, Carmen. He wanted to talk about the Chinese. Let's hold off on Carmen. I'll be with you in just a second, Carmen, but just stand by. And let's talk about the positive lessons from the quarantine. The positive lessons from the quarantine, as far as I'm concerned, are very simple and crucial. It's number one, you can live with less. That's the great lesson. I think a lot of people are realizing that they can live with a lot less. I think that one of the things that you should be thinking about is what kind of life you want to be living. We're all in the quarantine. A lot of us are broke. A lot of us are having a lot of problems, financially speaking. But you have to ask yourself, how do you live your life now? How do you want to live your life? And you can start asking yourself that question because you're broke, you're unemployed, but more to the point, you have all this time to think. A lot of people have not had the opportunity to think as much as they have as of late. Just never, because they've been busy. They've been doing this, they've been doing that, and just trying to stay afloat. Now they're stuck at home. They might be broke, but there are a lot of laws and a lot of cities and states and countries and whatnot where you can't evict people right now because of the coronavirus. So you might be broke, but you're not getting kicked out of your home. So you can sit there and think about it and figure out, well, how do I want to live? And I think that that's one of the best things to come out of the whole quarantine, or the whole lockdown. The ability to think and figure out what you want to do with your life. And one of the key lessons I think that people are learning is that you can make do with less. You don't need so much shit in your life. There's a great picture, Fight Club. Half the picture is brilliant. The second half, questionable. But the first half, when the narrator, Jack, he's realizing that he doesn't need that apartment full of IKEA shit. He can just live in a dump. It doesn't matter. He'll have a fulfilling life anyway. I think a lot of people are learning that. I hope you are learning that you don't need so much. You can get by with less. You can make do with less. I've said before that what you should do at this time is grab all the crap that you have in your life that you don't need. Just make an inventory of all your shit, and all the shit you don't need, sell it. Just get rid of it. Get cash, because you need cash now. You need as much cash as possible. So you get rid of all the cash, and I'll get rid of all your crap, excuse me, not cash, no, crap. All the toys and the garbage, jet skis and whatever toy you have that is perfectly useless. You get all those toys, you spritz them up, clean them up, and post them on Craigslist. And the first guy who comes along and wants it, you sell it. You just sell it on eBay, sell it on Craigslist, sell everything that you do not need. And you'd be surprised how much you can get rid of. And you can set yourself a target. You can make it like a game. You can say to yourself, okay, I'm going to get rid of 1/3 of all my possessions. And you'd be surprised that if you really set a goal like that, how much you really can get rid of. And it'll be a lot more than 1/3. You'll realize it's half, maybe even 2/3 of all the shit that you've accumulated. And that's one of the positive lessons of the quarantine. You don't need that much to have a happy life. And you start to realize what you do need. You need companionship. You need friends, real friends, not these people who just are casual acquaintances or those people that you see every day, not the barista at the Starbucks. That's not a friend. That's just somebody that you see every day circumstantially. It means nothing. You want to find out your real friends. Right before this webinar, I had about a 2-hour conversation with a guy that I'm realizing is a real friend. I'm not going to say who it is. It's just a guy I know. And we were talking about this, that we hadn't spoken in a while, in several months, as a matter of fact. And we were talking about this, we were talking about that. And all of a sudden I realized, this guy is a real friend. I want him in my life. And it was really funny because we were having this conversation and we were both said, I can only speak for about 15, 20 minutes. And we wound up talking for over 2 hours. I literally hung up on the guy about 15 minutes and 10 minutes before the start of the webinar. I was sending everybody the link to the webinar while I was still talking to the guy. I'm not kidding. And I hope none of you find this disrespectful, but the point I'm trying to make is a very important point, is that I realized this guy is a friend, okay? I met him circumstantially, but he's a friend, and I want to cultivate him as a friend. And I realized as we were talking, he was thinking more or less the same thing, When we got off, we both actually had to do things. I had to do this webinar, and he had to do some stuff of his own. He had mentioned what it was. It was like a real thing. And he told me that, yeah, we got to do this again soon. And we didn't figure it out because we both all of a sudden realized we had to go, but we're going to get in touch again. That kind of human connection, a real human connection of talking about things that are important and listening to the problems of somebody else and trying to help him. That is real. And that's one of the positive lessons that I personally am getting out of this quarantine. Yeah. Because a lot of times I'm living my life and moving forward and doing all kinds of things, and I don't stop and realize what's important. And that's what you should do. That's the positive lesson of the quarantine. Okay, Carmen. Carmen had a question here. And Carmen, are you there?
Hello.
Hey, Carmen, how's it going?
Good. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you fine. I'm so glad you can make it.
Huh.
Yeah, and I'm unlike the other people, except for Michael, all the other guys who didn't show up. I'm giving them an F for failure, for failing to attend. But you get a check mark. You get a gold star, Carmen.
Awesome.
Be thankful. How can I help you? But you tell me the question you had.
So my question is, with the coronavirus, I think the reputation of the Chinese community have hit a pretty much like an all-time low, and I can see that there's going to be a lot of racism, hostility, discrimination against the community. So my question is, what can I do within my power, the do's and don'ts, that I can, survive and excel in this new social, economical environment?
That's a good question. Okay, first of all, I think that most people are sophisticated enough to realize that there's a difference between Chinese people and the Chinese Communist Party. I think that most people blame the Chinese Communist Party. There is, of course, a minority of people who are, let's face it, rather ignorant, who will say that it's, the Chinese did it, the Chinks did it, the Chinks did it. No, it's not.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, no, but it's not. But we know that. And most people, not just educated people, but a lot of people who are uneducated, they might not be from highfalutin universities, they might not even have a university education, but they're smart enough to realize the difference. They're smart enough to realize the difference between the Chinese person living down the street from them and the Chinese Communist Party that's on the other end of the globe, and they're two different people, okay? Mm-hmm. So you have to keep in mind that a lot of times the people who will be racist are the people who don't know any Chinese, who don't know them personally, and so they view them as so simply foreign. There's that one issue. There's also the other issue too, that in an economic downturn, automatically there is more tension between different racial groups, and all racial groups, not just say whites and Chinese or whites and blacks. No, everybody starts hating everybody else, and everybody starts to like go back to their roots, go back to their home community, because they find support there from their local community, from their native community. And we're going to start to see during this depression the limits of multiculturalism. The fact of the matter is, a lot of these attacks that are happening on Chinese people are not coming from whites, they're coming from blacks, i.e. other minority groups. I mean, minority groups are attacking each other, see? And this is going to be worse and worse. We're going to see more blacks attacking Chinese, more blacks attacking Jews, because a lot of blacks consider that Jews are landlords, and since they don't have employment, they don't have money, there is resentment, and there are more anti-Semitic attacks. You're going to have more of this kind of situation all around. What's to be done about it? Just watch out, quite frankly. The problem is going to be is that most of the racially motivated attacks are going to be between minority groups. There are going to be a minority of white on minority attacks, but the press is going to blow those out of proportion and say, ooh, look at the racism, right? But they're going to give short shrift when it's black on Chinese violence. And that's going to be happening more and more.
I'm thinking that in terms of traveling, even if the airlines open again, yeah, I'm not going to travel to like, you know, places like Italy, Spain, and also like Africa, because those places have been hit like really hard by the coronavirus. So I'm thinking that like the, you know, the hatred towards like Chinese community is going to be like the highest over there. So
probably. I assume that you're Chinese.
Yes.
Yeah. Is it unfair? Certainly. No question about it. I mean, I'm not arguing that it's fair. You know, why is an individual responsible for what some other government did? I mean, I'm assuming that you're not a muckety muck in the Chinese Communist Party, right?
No.
Okay. So I you know, who knows? Maybe you're Xi. Right now I'm talking to Xi.
Oh, I'm reporting you right now. I'm reporting you.
You are. Oh, yeah. I know the Chinese Communist Party. They need to keep tabs on me. I know. Don't tell me. I'm that kind of an influence. I know. But no, seriously, it's grossly unfair, but it's human nature, especially when times are tough.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a white thing. It's not like structural racism. None of this shit. It's just the way human beings are. See, when we see somebody who's different from ourselves and we're going through a rough time, we take out our frustrations on them. And the fact is that if we are in a completely homogenous environment, that is, all the people around us are of our exact same race, whatever that race may be, and we are under economic stress, worried about how we're going to put food on the table and whatnot, we're going to lash out at other people. We're going to lash out at the people we love the most sometimes. It's human nature. If you're under stress, it's not racism. What happens is that, see, if somebody is like, for instance, if you are a white person and you have no money whatsoever and things are going really, really bad for you and you're going to lose your house and you don't have money for food and whatnot, you see somebody else, anybody else of any race, you know, and they give you some excuse to lash out at them, you're going to lash out at them. The same if you're a black person. And if you're a black person and you're surrounded by other black people and you're worried about putting food on the table and how you're going to pay for rent, and the mailman passes by your house, right? And he's another black man, and everybody around you is black, and the mailman is a black guy, but he's not your family. Well, what are you going to do? You're going to go out there and take out your frustrations on them. And maybe hit them, maybe attack them, maybe whatever, maybe start a fight, pick a fight. I mean, because it's human nature. You know, you cannot say, ooh, it's racism. No, you have to look at it from the point of view who's lashing out. The person who's lashing out, they're lashing out because they don't have an outlet for their frustration, and more importantly, they don't have an outlet for their fear. And it's not their fear of Chinese. It's the fear that they're not going to be able to provide for the people that they love. And because ultimately that's the thing that we most want to do. And that's why in a multicultural society works like a charm, when everybody's belly is full, when everybody has lots of money and everybody's all happy and there's work is aplenty and whatnot, and nobody goes hungry and everybody's fine, yeah, then multiculturalism works like a charm because everybody's in a good mood. But when things are tough, when things are going down the tubes, oh, that's a different story. And so we as human beings will lash out at the person who is different from us, not because they're Chinese or black or white or anything. We're going to lash out at them because they're not one of our people, our family. They're just going to be some outsider. Think of the postman example. You're a black man and you're worried about your food on the table, and you've got your family and your friends, and you need to lash out and get this anger and fear out of your heart. And so you lash out at the poor mailman who didn't do anything, but he gets the brunt of it. You see?
Yep.
Yeah. So don't take it personally. If you ever are the subject of any kind of, you know, racism or anything like that, don't take it personally. I'm Hispanic, obviously. My name is Gonzalo Lira. Jesus Christ, if I'm not fucking Hispanic, who is? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But like, to tell you the truth, I've never been the recipient of any kind of racist attack or anything like that. Nobody's ever called me a spick or a wetback or anything. If I were, I wouldn't take it seriously. I'd
Mhm.
figure that the person throwing that at me has serious problems of their own, serious problems that they need to vent their rage and frustration that has nothing to do with me. I just happened to be the person that wandered by that brought this out of them. Not because of me inherently, but because it was just a moment. I was the straw that broke their back. You know, who knows? It doesn't matter what the reason is, but it's not me. It's not you. Understand that. If you recognize that, then your life becomes a lot easier, and you don't get paranoid. Because if you constantly think that, oh, it's racism and they're going to eat me alive because of racism, then you live a shitty life. Who needs that shit? Yeah.
Mhm.
Recognize that it's just human nature and fear. And if you recognize that, then it becomes a lot easier to handle it. That would be my advice. You see where I'm coming from?
Yep. It does help. Thank you.
I hope that it helped. Okay.
Yeah.
Take it easy, Carmen. Great talking to you. Talk to you
I'll-
soon. See you next week. And and Saurabh, Saurabh, I think his name is. Hey, there he is. Thank God. Yeah. Saurabh, are you there? Hello. Saurabh. Yeah. Are you there? Oh man, turn on your phone or rather your microphone. Okay. He asked me about edging the beta. Okay. Well, let me I'm telling you guys on Patreon, and I'm not really telling anybody. But what happened was that, see, I had planned to release Wilshire Boulevard, a book I've written. It's written and it's been read by some people who can attest to the fact that it's been written. I was going to release it, and circumstances arose and different problems happened, and then I had my real life job, and that sort of like got postponed. And during this lockdown, where I had more free time, I started preparing to publish it finally. But then I got this idea for Edging the Beta, which I thought was just a better book, and it's a nonfiction book. And let me explain it. Edging the Beta is a book about why young men don't have sexual release. They don't have sexual partners. And it's a substantial minority. But this minority is getting increasingly pissed off. And it's not fair. The undertitle of Edging the Beta is Causes and Effects of the Sexual Market Deregulation. And my argument is basically that the sexual market was deregulated, and because of that, there are some men who get all the women. And there is a substantial proportion of men who get no women whatsoever. And these men are quote unquote betas. But in the book, you'll read it in the introduction, I say it, that these guys who are quote unquote beta, they're not lesser men. No, they're very good men, very decent men. They are the backbone of any civilization. And they are men to be respected and treated well. But the sexual market deregulation has left them incredibly alone, incredibly frustrated, and incredibly unmotivated. And because of this, they do not have a clear path forward, and they are becoming increasingly enraged. the fact of the matter is, most of my followers on YouTube are these young men. And I find it really wrong how our society has organized itself. And I've been trying to figure out how this happened. And that's what this book is about, my conclusions as to how I think it happened. It's a long argument. I'm not going to get into it now. But I will, and actually I'd appreciate if you guys could help me out, because now that I think about it, you guys are a terrific resource. And please forgive me if I sound as if I'm treating you as an object as opposed to as individuals, but rather in the sense that, see, you guys are my fans, and I'm very grateful to you. But you're also pretty smart guys. And see, in the content I provide it tries to be thoughtful. It tries to help. That's the thing that I'm all about. Actually giving real help and insight, as opposed to feel-goodism. I'm not interested in that. But a lot of guys who say, oh, you know, all you need is hope. If you have hope in your heart, you can achieve anything. Just dream it and you will be it. Which is just bullshit, right? I try to point out how practically you can achieve something. And I realize that you guys are a great resource in terms of reading this. So actually, now that I think about it, and just as I'm talking to you now, it's occurred to me that I probably will be circulating pieces of this to you guys, because I'd like to get your opinion. But anyway, the point is, see, once I'm done with this, which should be in about a month's time or perhaps a bit more, but certainly I'll have it done by the 4th of July. And you guys will definitely get free copies, because I'll just post it for everybody on Patreon as a perk of the subscription. But the point of the book is that I realized that it would be the best book for me to release first. It would be better than Wilshire Boulevard, because Wilshire Boulevard is a great novel, but it's a great story, it's a fun story and all the rest of it. But this nonfiction book would be more apropos to my audience. And so I want to release it first, and then put out Wilshire Boulevard, and then some other stuff that I'm working on that I don't want to get into in this conversation. But Edging the Beta is something that I'm very much looking forward to and very excited about. It's been quite the adventure to write it. It's been, I'm not going to get into it now, because it's had a lot of ups and downs, and it's been very difficult to write it. Just so that you know, I roughly have about 42,000 words of manuscript, which is roughly about 130 pages of manuscript. I expect it to be about 60 to 70,000 words, which is roughly 200 pages. And I'm psyched about it. I think that you're really going to like it. You guys are going to be reading it first, okay? And I'll post it as soon as I'm done with it. I will post it to you guys, and then I'll publish it on Amazon, and then Edging the Bait and all the rest of it. And it's an exciting project, and yeah. So, you know, I'm thinking as I'm speaking here, that's why I'm sort of like, you know, rambling on a bit. I think I'm not going to talk about it anymore, but I just want to give you the announcement, as it were. You guys who are on these webinars are like my, quite frankly, you're my closest supporters. And so I thank you really from the bottom of my heart, because it's not like the cash that you toss my way, though I appreciate that certainly, but it's much more than cash, it's the attention. Yeah, you guys pay attention to what I have to say, and it's incredibly flattering and humbling, and I thank you. And I hope that these webinars give you your money's worth, and you feel it's time well spent. That's very important to me. And I hope that this book will be something that will be valuable to you, because I try to explain how our society got to the place that it is, where it is discarding the most valuable members of society, where it is creating a condition where the top tier men get all the girls. And you know, the top 20% of men in the Pareto distribution, they get all the girls, and the bottom 80%, they get none. And the women are just as unsatisfied as the men, because they're all these women, they're chasing the top group, and of course they can't all be with the top group. And so, you know, 80% of them are dissatisfied. and they carry this dissatisfaction throughout their lives. And it's just misery for everybody involved. It's a disaster. And more to the point, it's a situation that cannot long endure because for reasons that I explained in the book, this situation leads to women having fewer children. And if they have fewer children, it's inevitable that our society will disappear. If we have fewer than replacement level number of children per woman, our society will disappear. It's just a matter of time. And this is why this is so serious. And of course, nobody's discussing this. And so I figured I'm going to discuss it. I'm going to write about it. And that's what I'm doing. So anyway, here we are at the Q&A section of the broadcast. Whoa, we've gone over 2 hours. I hope you guys aren't bored. We'll try to keep the whole broadcast under 3 hours. So let's throw the room open for questions. Stephen Pace is the one with the first hand up. So Stephen, how's it going? Are you there?
Going good, Gonzalo. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. What's up with your life? Where are you at, by the way?
Charleston, South Carolina.
And how's the quarantine treating you?
It's not bad. It's not bad. I work at Boeing, so they've announced layoffs are going to happen June 1st. So everyone's just kind of waiting to see if they get laid off. But I think I'll be all right.
I hope you are. I hope you are. Yeah, tell us next month how it goes. Yeah.
Yeah, will do for sure.
So what's up? What's your comment or question or critique?
Yeah. So my question is, people that have like multiple millions of dollars,
yep,
where do they bank? And I know, like, you may say rich people, oh, they're going to buy like a building or an asset or some sort of income stream. Yep. But I've been thinking about this for a while, like when you fantasize about winning the lottery. And I was thinking, if you have like $20 million, like what I would do is I would probably apply to a bunch of different credit unions and break it up so that each account has the maximum that would be insured by the FDIC. Because if you have multiple millions of dollars, you're not going to put in one bank account and then the bank goes tits up and you only get, however much your FDIC insured for. So I just want to ask you, because I know you've hit the M mark a couple times in your life. And so, like, what happens is, like, when you become, when you hit that 1% of wealth, like, is some special dude come up to you and say, hey man, let me show you where all the rich people bank? Like, I've always wondered about that.
It's better than that. See, they tap you on the shoulder and they take you to this like big mansion and you walk in and it's full of hookers and cocaine everywhere. Yeah.
See, man, I knew it. I fucking knew it, man.
Well, yeah, we want to keep you guys down, motherfucker.
Yeah,
the 1%. Yeah, we get all the hookers and all the cocaine. Yeah, that's how it is. No, kidding aside, this is how it happens. Your notion of like breaking up, say for the sake of argument, just shits and giggles, you won the lottery and you got 20 million bucks. Good on you. Now, think to yourself the following. You're going to break up that 20 million bucks into several different accounts and credit unions because you don't want to have, you want it to be insured by the FDIC, right? Now the FDIC limit is $100,000. So you have to break it up.
I thought they bumped it up to $250,000 after the 2008 debacle.
Oh, they did? Oh, okay. So let's say it's
I believe they did.
Sure. Yeah. So that would mean that you have to put it into what?
80.
4 times 10 is, excuse me, 4 times 20 is 80 different accounts. Yeah. 80 different accounts. How practical is that?
And that's why I'm asking the question, because I'm wondering. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. See, you have to understand that. Okay, I understand. What happens is that usually when you have a great deal of cash like that, you will invest it in bonds. There are different kinds of bonds. You can buy treasury bonds, which are the most tradable. They are practically like liquid cash, or you can buy investment grade bonds. Now, investment grade bonds are bonds in companies that are unlikely to go bankrupt. Okay. Now, treasury bonds are the gold standard. They are the highest level of credit worthiness because the federal government has never gone bankrupt. And so, I mean, a municipal bond, that's a little bit riskier because municipalities have gone bankrupt lots of times. Okay. I mean, it doesn't happen all the time, but it happens. So a federal treasury bond is the safest asset. That's why it pays the lowest amount of interest, because interest is a reflection of risk. Now, suppose you won $20 million. What would you do? Well, you'd do the following. you would go to your bank, a big bank, say Citibank, and you'd say, I want to deposit this money here because I don't know what to do with it. And I want to know about, some like high net worth banking or some shit like that. And all of a sudden you'd get somebody, some customer rep, who'd call you up and take you out for drinks or coffee or lunch or whatever. And they talk to you about investment opportunities. Now, these investment opportunities, what are they trying to do? They're trying to sell you products that the bank has in order to get fees. See, these investment products, they're not all shady. Some of them are very lucrative, as a matter of fact. But there is going to be a fee. That's the whole point, because a bank is a business and it sells products. These products generate an income, a revenue, an interest for the people who buy them, but it also generates a fee, and the bank wants to get that fee. Okay, so if you were to deposit $20 million in Citibank, right, very quickly they'd be offering you products, different kinds of products. Now, the safest thing that you could do is you could say, I want to buy treasury bonds with this money, because treasury bonds, when you own a treasury bond, see, you own the bond. When you deposit money with a bank, you are lending the money to the bank. So if the bank goes bankrupt, they can't return you all of your money, right? But if you buy treasury bonds, you are buying debt with the US government. The US government owes you money, and the US government is not going to go broke, right? And they're not going to go broke because they can issue the currency. And so that automatically makes it so that they will never go broke. So anyway, if you buy bonds, right, what happens is that bonds are actual certificates. They are bits of paper, okay? And so what you can have is an agreement with your bank that they will act as the custodial agent. And what does that mean? That means that they will hold on to your bonds. They will guard them, and they will put them in a safe, or actually they'll just put them in a computer. Because what happens is that a bank will have an inventory of treasury bonds, and they will have them in their offices in New York, for instance, and they will have the serial number of all these bonds. And they will say, oh, well, the serial number from quadruple 01 to quadruple or triple 99 and belongs to this guy or whatever, okay? And that's how they'll do it. And so you'll just look at a statement and it'll be all electronic. But the bank will actually have physical possession of these bonds that you own. But the thing is, see, if the bank were to ever go bankrupt, they don't own those bonds, you do. They are just holding them for you. And so if the bank goes bankrupt, automatically those bonds would be physically delivered to you. You'd have to take care of them. And remember, a bond is a piece of paper. If the piece of paper is set on fire, then it's gone. It's just like having cash and you set on fire a $100 bill. It's the exact same process. It's gone forever, and that's that, and you lost it. So you have to be careful with these bits of paper, but you own the bits of paper, not the bank. That's the notion of the custodial agent, okay? And so if you have a lot of money, the sensible thing to do would be to invest it in treasury bonds. Treasury bonds will give you a little bit of interest, at this point it's less than 1%, but that's for reasons that are not germane to this conversation, but it'll give you a little bit of interest, a little bit of money every year. And so you will have these bonds and you'll get a little bit of drip of cash every year. And you will be safe because the bank, if it goes bankrupt, those bits of paper, it's only in their custody. They don't own them. They're simply guarding them, you see? And so in fact, if a bank were to go bankrupt, that part of the business of the bank would continue. You wouldn't even have to take delivery of them until way later. And it's more likely than not, if a bank were to go bankrupt, there would be other banks that would come in and buy up the bank, including its custodial business. And so for you as the end consumer, you would never have to take possession of the bonds. They'd go from being owned by Citibank, say, to being held rather in custody by Citibank, to being held by, say, JP Morgan that bought that part of the Citibank business when it went bankrupt, you see? So it would never affect you. That's how you would do it.
So if we had multiple millions of dollars and we weren't interested in purchasing an income stream or an asset, you're saying that it's a pretty safe bet that you could trust American banks to hold treasury bonds for you.
Yeah,
and
because
not
you're
end
not,
up.
because see, remember, they don't own the treasury bonds, you do, okay? I mean,
Yeah.
you understand the relationship. When you deposit money, they call it a deposit, right? But what are you doing? You are lending money to the bank.
I
Once you lend,
understand that.
yeah. That's the thing. But the FDIC is guaranteeing that the bank will return you the money up to $250,000, right?
Yeah.
But in this other operation, there's no need for any guarantee. You see?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And that
Now,
way you don't.
with the fee would typically outweigh the amount of interest that you earn, right?
The custodial fee, it depends.
Yeah. Okay.
It depends on a whole, it depends on how much you have, it depends on negotiation with the bank, it depends on a whole bunch of factors.
Sure.
And like,
Okay.
for
Well,
instance, in a 20 million, say you have a 20 million stack of cash, right? You're not going to
mhm.
blow it all on treasury bonds, okay? No, you can put some money to work. Okay, look, suppose you have $20 million. The sensible thing to do is, if you're not sure, if you're totally unsophisticated, you put it all on treasury bonds to start with, okay? And then you say to yourself, I'm going to invest 5% in something else. And you start investigating other potential assets. And you take 5% of 20 million, which is 1 million, and you invest it in other things that you think would be worthwhile. Now, for example, if you were to get 20 million bucks, you could turn around and say, I'm going to invest maximum 10% in a house, right? That's $2 million. You can buy a really nice house for $2 million. But then you start to think to yourself, well, I have all these expenses and whatnot. And so you could say to yourself, I'm going to spend 10% of that 20 million, that is 2 million, in the house and all of the expenses of the house for the next 10 years, which is actually a better way to approach it. And what you basically do is you budget out all the expenses of the house for the next 10 years. And just say, for the sake of argument, property taxes and all the rest of it, just for shits and giggles, say that would be $500,000. Or no, that's too much. Say that it would be $100,000. Okay, $200,000. So you say to yourself, okay, I'm going to buy a house that buying it and owning it and paying all the taxes and fees for the next 10 years is going to cost me $2 million. And all those fees and taxes and maintenance and whatnot is going to be $250,000. Let's do that. And so the maximum price for the house is 1.7 million, 1.75 million. And you see how you do it? And I said before, and I always say, that you never invest more than 10% of your investable funds in any one bet, in any one investment, because you always want it diversified, okay? And so in this case, you have 20 million bucks, you put roughly 10% in a house. And then you take another 10% and you say, you know, I'm worried about the currency and whatnot, I'm gonna buy gold. And I'm going to buy gold, and also I'm going to buy 10 years of storage facility of that gold in some reputable bank that is insured and whatnot. This is not particularly expensive, by the way. And so you add up the cost of that and you store it in a safety deposit box. Safety deposit boxes that would hold, you know, $2 million worth of gold would run you, I don't know, maybe $1,200, no, probably more, probably $2,400 a year. Over 10 years, that would be $24,000. So you see how you'd map it out. That's how you do it. Yeah. Does
Yeah.
that make any sense to you?
Yeah. And thanks for that clarification, because I've always wondered where millionaires bank, and I've heard like, oh, so they try to shelter their money in like offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands, but I'm like, how the fuck could you trust that? Because if you put millions of dollars in some offshore bank account and then some shady shit happens, there's no like legal system where you can try to get your money. So I've never really understood how people can trust like.
Yeah, but see, there a lot of times when they do offshore accounts, they want to minimize or avoid taxes. Okay, and so a lot of times the amount of taxes that they would pay is so high that they're willing to run the risk. And a lot of times you have to understand that these offshore banks, to you, they might seem shady, but in fact, they're not shady at all. They're solid as a rock. Okay. And so to you who don't have any experience of them and don't have any background,
Yeah, I've never been to the mansion, man. I've never been there.
Yeah, well,
I
I'm
hope
telling
that.
you, yeah, there's a great book that I recommend you read. Guy, it's called The Laundromat. They made a Netflix series and it's pretty shitty, but The Laundromat is actually pretty good. Okay, the book. The Laundromat is by a guy called Bernstein, Jerry Bernstein, I think it is. Now, this explains like offshore accounts. And so if you want, do you want me to explain offshoring?
Yeah, if you could, I'm very curious.
Yeah, sure. Let's get a quick survey. Who wants me to talk about offshore accounts and offshore corporations? Raise your hand. Yeah. Okay. Sure. No problem. Let me explain it to you. See, do you know the #1 tax haven in the world? You're not going to believe it. The #1 tax haven in the world.
I don't know. If I had to guess, somewhere in the Cayman Islands. I don't.
No, it's closer to home.
Delaware.
Well, close. It's the U.S. The
Okay.
U.S. is the #1 tax haven around the world. Okay. Okay. So how do you minimize taxes? What's an offshore account for?
To shelter your money from
No,
the government.
no. It's not the money. It's the asset. Okay. I'm thinking here how to structure this conversation so that you get the point that I'm trying to make. Okay, let me put it to you this way. Suppose there's this boat, okay? There's this yacht. We have this yacht and it's 500 feet long. It's got like all the trimmings. It's got like this staff of people and they serve you caviar and lobster all day long and you surf
Helicopter
around.
pad.
The whole shebang, the whole thing, right? And yeah, you have a great old time on the yacht, right? Now, suppose this yacht is owned by a shell company in the Cayman Islands, okay? But see, you get to use it whenever you want to, okay? Legally, you're not the owner of the boat, but you get to use it. So who's the real owner?
You are.
Yeah, because you're using it, right? You drive around in a car and the registration is in the name of John Smith. But you drive it and John Smith never calls, never asks for the keys to the car, and you're driving around this Mercedes or this Rolls Royce or whatever the hell, right? Who's enjoying that asset? You are, okay? That's the point of an offshore company. The point of an offshore company is to create the legal fiction whereby the asset belongs to somebody else, but you get to enjoy it. You get to benefit from it. You see?
Yeah.
And so why do you want this? Well, sometimes it's very reasonable. There's a very reasonable explanation. For instance, a lot of times you will, in some countries, and it depends on the jurisdiction, but for instance, you will want a limited liability company to own cars that you drive. That way, if you crash your car, you personally are not liable. It's the company, the limited liability company. See?
Yep.
And it limits legal exposure. Because if you are the owner of the car and you run over somebody's dog, oh boy, you can get sued and all the rest of it. It's going to be a whole nightmare, right? And your other assets, your other possessions might be legally exposed because you ran over this old lady's dog, right? And because you ran over this old lady's dog, the old lady might sue you and she might take away your 500-foot yacht. Would you want that? Fuck no. You know, too bad for the Chihuahua, but fuck the Chihuahua. I want my yacht, right? Yeah, so you structure that car, that Rolls Royce that you're driving around in, you have it be owned by a company in Delaware, an LLC. They're the legal owner of the car, of the Rolls Royce that you ran over the Chihuahua with, right? What happens if the lady sues? She sues the company that owns the car. And worst case scenario, you lose the car, but you don't lose the boat. You see?
Yeah.
That's why you do it. And,
Gotcha.
and you have these different limited liability companies that own different assets. For instance, if you yourself, you own a company, you, Stephen Pace, you own this company that has $1 billion in revenue, okay? You have to pay taxes on that $1 billion in revenue, right? But what happens if the company is owned by an LLC in Delaware. Well, you said you're in Charleston, South Carolina, I take it? Okay.
Yeah.
South Carolina, there are state taxes, right? But in Delaware, there aren't. So if the
Mhm.
company, instead of you owning it, it's owned by this LLC in Delaware, then it doesn't pay state taxes. It just pays federal taxes.
Yeah.
You see? And
Yeah.
so suppose, now here's another thing. Suppose your company, your LLC in Delaware, it earns $1 billion a year, right? But
Okay.
suppose what you do is that there's a company in, say, the Cayman Islands that sells or licenses, rather, a patent for this company. This patent, this company sells a product, a widget that depends on this patent, right? And the license of this patent has to be paid, right?
Yeah.
So the company in the Cayman Islands, it owns the patent. And so your Delaware company, let's call it Delaware company in Delaware LLC, right? Your Delaware company LLC, it gets a revenue every year of $1 billion. That's a lot of money. It has to pay taxes on that, federal taxes, right? But see, if it has to pay a licensing for a patent to a foreign country, i.e. the Virgin Islands, well, then all the money it pays in that licensing fee goes to the Virgin Islands and doesn't have to pay taxes in the US. So for example, suppose the Delaware company, LLC, it has this widget that depends on this patent. You're the one who invented the patent, by the way. You, Stephen, right?
Yep.
And what you did is that you said, well, I'm a smart guy. So rather than me own the patent, I'm going to go to the British Virgin Islands. I'm going to set up an LLC in the British Virgin Islands, and the British Virgin Islands is going to buy my patent for $1. And you're the owner of the British Virgin Islands company, right?
Hmm.
But they now own the patent, the company, not you. It does. You sold it fair and square for $1.
You sold it to the company that you founded and you own.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you turn around and you go back to Delaware, and the Delaware company that's making these widgets based on your patent, but that's owned by the company in BVI, it goes out and sells the widget, whatever the widget is, that depends on this patent, of course, this fabulous invention that you had, right? And it makes $1 billion every year, but oh, what a tragedy. It has to pay $975 million a year in fees, patent licensing fees to the company in the British Virgin Islands. So all that $1 billion in income, it goes to, well, I'm confusing revenue and income, but you know what I mean. It goes all to the BVI company, the 975 million. And so the actual net income after expenses of the Delaware company is only $25 million. And how much is the corporate tax in the United States? 20% or 17%, whatever the fuck it is. It only pays that. It doesn't pay taxes on the $1 billion. It doesn't pay taxes on the 1,000 million. That's what $1 billion is. It only pays taxes on 25 million. You see? And all
Yeah.
that money, fair and square, goes to the British Virgin Island, to a bank in the British Virgin Islands. Does it stay in that bank in the British Virgin Islands? No. What it does is that money, then it goes out and buys assets elsewhere. It buys treasury bonds, say, in Singapore, in a bank in Singapore. And in that bank in Singapore, there's a stack of treasury bonds, $975 million worth of it, in some vault in a bank in Singapore. And the Singapore bank is going to be perfectly reputable. It's been around for decades. It's perfectly reputable, perfectly fine. You can go there whenever you want to and check out your treasury bonds, and there you have them. And then you can turn around and with that money that you got out of the United States fair and square and didn't pay any taxes on, and you saved yourself literally hundreds of millions of dollars, and you turn around and you buy other shit. You buy other companies. You buy whatever the fuck you want. You didn't pay any taxes for it. You see?
Yeah.
That's how it works.
I imagine you got to hire a bunch of lawyers to set all this shit up to make sure
Yeah,
it's
but
legit
the
and legal.
expense is minimal. I mean,
Sure.
like in the case of $1 billion, say, if the entire expense, legal expense and hassle and flights and everything is $1 million, that's
Yeah, it's not.
1/1000th of the whole shebang, right?
Yeah.
And what was your tax liability? Like $250 million, say, just for the sake of argument. You pay $1 million and you save $250 million. I would say that that's a pretty good investment in the fucking lawyers. Now, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
You see how it
Interesting.
works? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I've always wondered about that. So thanks for
No problem.
clarifying.
I would suggest that book, that it explains it like with real people and real information, pretty much everything that I've explained to you. Okay. There's a
It's
lot to be
called
learned in
the
that book.
Laundromat.
The Laundromat by a
Yeah.
guy called, hang on just a second. Let me go and check it because I have it right here. Hang on. Yeah, hello. It's Jake Bernstein. I said Jerry. It's Jake Bernstein. It's called The Laundromat. You can get it on Amazon or whatever. Read it. It's a fun read. And it can give you a whole bunch of information and a lot of insight into this whole thing of it's not money laundering. Okay. See, money, how can I put it? There's always a difference between tax avoidance and tax minimization. Okay. See, one is illegal and the other is legal. Okay. So you have to understand the difference. And if you're creative, if you're smart, you can figure out a lot of ways to minimize your tax burden. The problem is that most people don't bother. Okay. And this goes for everybody. But you have to pay attention, be very diligent, and be smart and not take any stupid risks. See, you never want to just give a fuck you very much to the tax authority. You want to be doing your taxes properly, but being aggressive as to how to minimize those taxes. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hope this helps, man. Take it
Yeah.
easy.
Thank you.
Hey, my pleasure. That was a fun topic. Who else has a question? Raise your hand, and who has a question? Let me see. Let me see. Anybody new? Adam Edwards. I don't think I've spoken to you before. Adam, have we spoken before? Hello? Hello, Adam? Oh,
Hey,
there
Coach,
you are.
can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. Have we ever spoken before? How are you?
I'm doing well. Yeah, I really enjoy your content. Started on YouTube, and then I don't agree with everything that you say, but it hasn't stopped me from paying the dues so far.
I'm so glad. I'm glad you enjoy the content. And of course, it would be crazy and wrong and weird if you agreed with everything I said. Okay. So,
A little bit.
but the important thing is to ask yourself why you're disagreeing and figuring that out. Because then by understanding why you disagree, then you can see the real point, the real issue. And that's always the valuable thing. But anyway, what's up? What's on your mind?
So I sent you the question on the board. I don't know if you're seeing it. So this is the situation that I'm in currently. I've appointed a board of directors that are, and I've chosen an industry that's, I'm not going to go too far in detail on it, but I have a board of directors. We're looking for an equity investor, a joint venture partnership, and I've got a list of all these equity investors, these family offices, and I wanted to know your take. And I'll give you I won't tell you what the industry is, but I'll give you an idea that it is in commercial real estate in some way, shape, or form.
Okay.
So I want to know what are the most important key points that I need to bring into a financial presentation to get a joint venture or an equity partner online.
Okay. Let me get this straight. You work for the board of directors of a commercial real estate company. Is that correct?
No, I've formed an LLC, and I'm this board of directors. I'm essentially the founder, and I am compensating them by a share of equity. I'm going to get a little bit of resistance from some people probably on this channel, but that's okay. if everybody wants to know, yeah, Dan Pena is a total fraud, you shouldn't listen to him. But that's the operative idea. The board of directors works for me. I'm compensating them, and they sort of share their knowledge. We want to bring on an equity partner. There's a seat on the board that's appointed for them, that's left open for them. And
okay, let me ask the following question then. Okay, so I understand that you don't want to get into the details, but what service are you providing? Because you don't have any cash and you don't have any property on your portfolio. Is that correct?
No, not at all.
Okay, so you obviously have some sort of idea that you think would be a sellable idea. Is that basically the upshot?
Well, the upshot is we're actually acquiring businesses. We have a unique. I want to say, I don't necessarily want to use a unique selling proposition, but it's a unique selling proposition.
Okay.
It's something that's slightly better, new, or different that we want to do with this particular industry.
Okay, so you want somebody with money to come on board and help you acquire these other businesses, correct?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so you got to understand what a family office is looking for. Family office is looking for two things: yield, high yield, low risk. That's basically what it cares about. Okay.
Okay.
And usually they want to be involved in a business that they understand. Okay. So
awesome. Yep.
You want to make sure that anybody that you approach, you've got a list of names of family offices. Great. Family offices, for those of you who don't know, is that a lot of times families that are high net worth, that have a lot of money, investable money, they set up a family office, which is an office that is dedicated to managing this money. And how do they manage this money? By purchasing assets or getting involved in businesses that will provide income. Because what happens is that the family office is basically the money engine that finances the family. The family, often it's not, it can become like the children, grandchildren of the founder of this family. Okay, so that's sort of like typically how it goes. Now, family offices are usually fickle because there's a lot of obviously family dynamics going on. Because usually these family offices are not professionally managed unless we're talking in the tens of billions of dollars. They're not going to be very professionally well managed. I would say that a good family office, a family office that crosses the $750 million mark, they will likely start to hire professional money managers. But if it's under 750 million net, it's going to be like the uncle or the grandfather or whomever. And there's going to be all kinds of family dynamics going on. I mean, family offices are inherently unstable and eventually they fall apart because all kinds of psychological issues come in that have nothing to do with finance and have everything to do with personal psychology. Okay. Now, I'm bringing this up because it's important. You see, a family office rationally will want high yield, low risk. But you see, they have the irrational element that you have people within the family office that can be highly irrational and desire things for random reasons. When I was financing movies and I approached a couple of family offices, there were a couple of people I knew that were into the glitz and glamour. And I very easily seduced them by inviting them to a few parties, having them around with like models showing up and shit like that, or, famous actresses or whatever. And this was in Chile, and we're a relatively small market. And they saw stars in their eyes. They were blown away, and they were instantly willing to sign agreement papers. So you have to find that guy who thinks that your business is sexy, whatever your business is. Because in a family office, they only care about rationally. They only care about high yield, low risk. So you have to find somebody in the family office that falls in love with your business and convinces everybody else to get involved with it. And a lot of times they will get involved with it, especially if it's not that big of a risk in relation to their overall portfolio. For instance, if it's an investment of, say, $10 million, but the total pie of the family office is $1 billion, well, that's 1%. They'll be fine with that kind of risk. and they'll make that person who wants it, they'll make that person happy. And a lot of times what happens is that they'll say, okay, we'll throw 10 million in this business that you want, Uncle Peter, but you have to support us in this other shit that we want. You know, that kind of negotiation internally happens. So you have to identify the person in the family office, in that family, in that extended family, that would bite insofar as your business is concerned. You have to find that person who would find your business interesting enough to convince the other people in the family to go for it. And for that, you need social connections. You need social ins to that family so that they can guide you and tell you, forget about, you know, Uncle Jack over there. He's a hard ass, an asshole. He's not going to go for anything. But here, Uncle Pete here and Aunt Janie, they're going to love that shit. You see my point? That's how you approach it.
No, that's pretty sound. I like that. So we're as far as we're building the sort of the provenance or the perception, we want to let them know that this is going to be high yield. This is going to be low risk. We want to sort of church up what the industry is a little bit. I have pre-screened them. I know that they are interested in my particular industry. It's just really a matter of reaching out. But no, that's pretty sound advice. I like that.
And the thing is, when you go into the presentation, see, you do it this way. You're going to have like I don't know, a half-hour presentation, right? In the first minute, lay down what the business is, what the risks are, and what the yields are. And don't be unrealistic about the yield or the risks, because these people aren't stupid, okay? So just say, you know, be upfront about any risks and upfront about the yield if it's not as high as they might expect, and just hit them hard with the things that they're interested in the first minute, okay? And then they'll just naturally gravitate to whatever it is, or they'll show you the door. But, you know, just don't draw it out. Don't make it a suspense, okay? Because what will happen is that, see, a lot of times in a lot of presentations I've seen, they sort of like draw out the risks. I mean, they sort of like postpone telling you about the risks and postpone telling you about the upside. And that's actually a mistake. The more successful presentations I've seen are the ones where right out of the gate, they tell you, these are the risks, these are the potential rewards, okay? It's sort of like, it's a weird thing of attention that if you spoil a story, if you spoil a movie, some people will say, oh, but you're ruining the movie. Oddly enough, if you actually already know the surprise ending or it's been spoiled to you, you enjoy the movie more because you know where it's going to end, okay? And you're not uncertain about the ending because you know it already. It's been spoiled. Spoil the ending. Tell them how much it's gonna cost, what are the risks, and what are the potential rewards. And don't gild the lily. And you'd be surprised that you're gonna get a more positive response than if you sort of like make it all flashy and cool at the beginning, and you know, only at the very end you say, oh, these are the risks and these are the returns. Because what will happen is that if they learn at the end of the potential risks, maybe the risk is too much and it sort of like deflates them. Whereas if you tell them the risks at the beginning, they might be a little bit scared, but as they get to know more about your business, they sort of like lean into it and say, oh, that sounds kind of interesting. And they start to get over their fear of the risk because they've internalized it from the beginning of the meeting. You see what I'm saying? So that's why, spoil the ending. Yeah, don't draw it out. Don't make it suspenseful. Yeah, it'll work to your advantage. Yes.
All right, spoil the ending. I got it.
Yeah.
That
Hope
makes
that
sense.
helps. Take it easy, Adam.
Yeah, appreciate it, Coach.
Hey, my pleasure. Okay, let's see. Somebody else. I want to get to people that I have never asked. Patrick Delvermois. I hope I'm not ruining that. Hey, Patrick, how's it going?
Oh, pretty good. You know, always enjoy your presentations.
I'm so glad.
So my question is, like, this is something I've been thinking about since, you know, we've all been stuck inside. Did the coronavirus or the CPP virus bust the myth of going to school and getting a job?
Yes, it does. I told you, fuckers. I told you, college is a scam. Yeah.
And ironically enough, I just graduated too. So
Too late
So-
for you, man. How
Too
much
late.
debt?
luckily none. Fortunately.
Oh, really? A lucky bastard.
Oh
Yeah.
no, I realize I'm a lucky bastard to say the least. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
escaped unscathed, but I know some people were in the hole relatively deep. So
How bad a hole?
like I had one friend, her name's Kaylee. Just for 1 year of grad school, she had to take out $40,000 in loans.
Oh,
Yeah,
just 1 year. Oh man, what the fuck did she study?
She went for a safety, health, and environmental applied sciences master's, not major, but yeah. So
Oh man, that sounds
so,
like.
it doesn't even matter what it would be, but $40,000 for 1 year, Jesus Christ! Oh my God.
No, that was just a mistake. Oh man. So what's your comment? Oh man, that story hurts. Just hearing it just hurts.
It twisted my insides to say the least when I heard that.
Yeah, poor woman. Oh man, she ain't never gonna get out from under that weight of debt. I'll tell you that right now.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. So what's on your mind, man?
No, but I was just thinking, I've thought about this question since we all been stuck inside, as I previously said, and like as I guess this pertains to your wage slavery video, like getting a 9-to-5 job. I mean, you're not going to be doing what you want with your life, like for the majority of your life. Like you only get 2 weeks off, and that's obviously not enough time to go explore the world. Obviously, there's a limit to how much you can make, and obviously you're wasting your time if you don't like it. So I was just wondering about like, I guess I'm assuming starting a franchise would be an excellent idea, but this is just uncertain time, so I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out ways of escape that I enjoy and I can make the maximum amount of money and utilize.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. You gotta, like I've said before, in other opportunities, you have to find the thing that you like doing and figure out a way to get other people to do it for you. Get other people to pay you for it. Okay. The Joker in Batman. What do you say? If you're good at something, never do it for free. Yeah. Okay. So figure out a way that somebody would be willing to pay you money for what you're good at, for what you enjoy, for the thing that you're happy to do. Okay. Because being a wage slave is basically you are selling your time, and time is the last thing on earth that you should be selling. Yeah. You should never sell your time. You should sell what you're good at.
How do you figure out what you're good at?
Oh, well, that's up to you. What do you enjoy doing?
Like I like reading. I guess like throughout this, I guess before this little pandemic, I was, exploring, hiking, etc. I like the outdoors and I like health. Those are two aspects of, I guess, life I like.
What activity do you like specifically?
With regards to
Into any of it. The specific activity. I mean, you say you like the outdoors. I like the outdoors too, but I don't know how the outdoors can pay me money to enjoy it. So what do you like to do specifically? What's the specific thing that you could spend your days, weeks, years doing happily? The specific activity.
I would say, I mean, obviously traveling would be something I'm very interested in, but again, how would you have someone pay for you to do that?
Yeah, but that traveling is not an activity. Okay, it's just going places. Well, it is an activity, but you're not producing anything. What is the thing that you would do that would be happy for you?
I guess I'm stumped, so I guess I need to figure out that question.
Yeah. Well, look, Aristotle or Plato or Socrates, one of the big three, he said, "Know thyself." I forgot which one. You got to figure that out on your own, man. Nobody can help. I can tell that for you. Okay, so figure that out. Yeah, I mean, I hate to leave you there in the lurch, and I don't mean to leave you in a lurch.
Oh no, I'm not taking offense, but it's nice to actually talk with someone, verbally discuss, questions and have them counter you.
Yeah, well, then what you have to do is you have to find and make friends with people who can do that. Because I appreciate it, and I'm glad to ping pong ideas with you. But we talk once a week. And do keep in mind that I try to talk to different people every week because, I love talking to the different people, repeatedly, but I think it's also unfair, and I gotta talk to people who haven't spoken up before, just to be, equitable. But the point is that, see, you got to make friends in real life, and that's something important. Do you have friends in real life, Patrick?
No, I do. I'm just away from all of them right now. I live in Pennsylvania. Where my friends and family are, and I'm in Idaho right now.
What
So
are you doing in Idaho?
I'm working with. I'm the kid who sent you a message about.
Oh,
Oh,
right. Yeah, you were thinking about doing the thing, and you're working in government now. And how's that
yeah.
working out for you?
They're having me stay for the summer, but
Yeah,
obviously nothing full time lined up.
yeah.
So I just don't want to waste my life away. I don't want to wake up one morning and realize, 40 years have passed and I have nothing to show for it. So I'm just,
Well,
planning.
no, I disagree. I disagree. You shouldn't be thinking to yourself, I don't want to wake up and have nothing to show for it. No, you should be thinking, what do I want to do? Not worrying about regrets in the future, but rather regrets now. Neil Peart, the great drummer for Rush, who is just my idol, and his passing really it just devastated me. I was really surprised at the depth of emotion I felt for his passing. He had this notion that I thought was so cool. He said that every morning he woke up and he asked himself, what's the coolest thing I could do today? That's a really profound way to live your life. What's the coolest thing I could do today? And to really sit there in the morning and figure out what would be cool for me to do today. Think of it in those terms. Don't worry so much about, worry, of course, of where you're going to be at age 80 or whatever. But today, if you don't know, stop this morning and ask yourself, what would be like the cool thing to do? What would make me go like, yes, this is definitely, I'm going to do it. I'm going to die at midnight tonight. So what do I want to do before midnight? That's the thing I most want to do. It will be the most fun, do that, and do that every day. You see, that might help you figure it out better, as opposed to worrying about not having regrets when you're age 80, because that's so far away. It's so vague. Okay, it's understandable, and it's a thing to be concerned about, but you want to be worried about the here and now. You see what I'm saying?
Oh no, so it's sort of going back to I guess the point in your presentation and how not to be stagnant. Like have a big goal and then have many objectives.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And if you're not sure about a goal, then don't worry about the goal. Figure out what the right now and what is the coolest thing I could do today. Yeah. You figure that help?
Oh no, it helped. So I'll just ponder this and rewatch this whenever it's released. But I'll figure things out. I just it's important to think about this stuff now, or at least I view it that way.
Look, the fact of the matter is, when you're young, it's really hard to figure out where you want to go. Okay, because you have all these options, and you have the problem of cost of opportunity. Any path that you take automatically eliminates other possibilities that you could have taken, and therefore every choice, the cost of that choice is every other opportunity that you fail to take, right? If you decide that you're going to be a lawyer, that means that you cannot be a doctor, you cannot be an engineer, and you cannot be a garbage man, right? The cost of being a lawyer is the addition of all the other options that you had, right? And so a lot of times when you're young, you start to dither because you have so many options. Paradoxically, when you have fewer options, things are clearer. And in point of fact, when you have fewer options, many times you are happier, because with fewer options, just because fate or destiny or whatever you want to call it has given you few options, then you just accept it and you just figure, okay, I don't have 1,000 options, I only have 3. And of those 3, well, number 2 is the best, because number 3 is too hot and number 1 is too cold, and so 2 is it. And you're happy with it. But if you have 1,000 options, then you get lost in the choices. It's like when you go to a supermarket and you have all these varieties of baked beans. There's so many that they make your head spin, right? That's the problem. And so rather than just look at all of those things, you just look at the here and now and the day. Your day is very limited. There are relatively few things that you can do today. And then focus on that. Focus on the coolest thing you could do today. See?
Yeah, and with regards to, I guess, choosing what I want to do with my life, but I already know necessarily what I want to do. Like as of right now, I work for the federal government, or I'm an intern with the federal government.
Mhm.
And actually not, but that's a longer story. But I am a occupational health and safety uh, manager intern. So I don't know if you know that exactly.
No.
So essentially, their role is to identify, control, and or recognize, evaluate, and control workplace hazards.
Okay. And is this occupation something that you enjoy?
I do, because it involves talking to various different groups of people, and also
Okay,
the
then
rather interesting too.
okay, then pursue that. But don't worry about saying, "Oh, I didn't do much with my life." Don't think of it in those terms. Think of it more short term. Okay. Don't get lost in the choices. Okay. I hope this helps. I'm gonna ask a last question, and great talking to you. And I am going to ask a last question, and that will be the stream, because once again we're hitting the 3-hour mark. Gabriel, how you doing? You there? Hello, Gabriel, are you there? Maybe the other microphone, because he's got like 2 names. That sometimes happens for some reason, that one person appears twice. I don't quite get it. And neither of his microphones works. Okay, Gabriel, are you there? Oh man, that's unfortunate. Oh, I'll try to catch you next time. And let's go with Lucas Zo. Lucas, I'm unmuting you now. Lucas, are you there?
Yes, I am. Hi,
How's it
Coach.
going?
Pretty good, pretty good. It feels like you just had another presentation the other week. I have a question for you in regards to the edging the beta discussion, because that's a very interesting topic. It's almost
Yep.
like an existential question. So the question for you is, what do you think, what are the possible, going forward, what are the possible directions that this will take? Obviously, one that we cease to exist, I guess, but what are the possible ways that things can go? And also the other question is, what ways you think we can help to make the right sort of to make the right direction sort of move forward? Because I think
You're
each
gonna
of
have to
us
wait
kind of.
on those. I'm gonna leave it there as a cliffhanger.
Okay,
Sorry,
not a problem.
I'll
No
leave it as a
worries.
cliffhanger.
So you're saying the answers are coming? Okay, perfect.
Yeah,
Okay.
the answers are coming. They're not happy answers, and I don't want to end this webinar on a downer note, So you'll just have to wait till the book comes out, because you'll read my conclusions there, because you might disagree with them completely, and that would be fine, But I don't want to, because right now I'm a bit in a dour mood insofar as that topic is concerned, and so I want to head that off. Yeah, but it's
Not a
coming. Okay.
I'm looking forward
Okay.
to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And last question, I'm going to hit Walt Pera. Yeah, I don't think I've spoken to Walt Pera before, and I'm looking forward to it. Walt, are you there? Hello, Walt.
Hey, Coach. How's everything?
I'm doing great. What about yourself?
Oh, doing good. Even here in
And where are
Miami,
you
we're
at?
I'm
Where are
actually in
you?
Miami right now. Miami.
Miami. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I used to live in Miami when I was a kid. I
Really?
lived in Kendall. Yeah.
Really? How long ago?
Oh, this was like in 83, 82.
Oof. Yeah, I wasn't even born at the time.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So what's up, my man?
Well, everything's been going pretty good. I'm actually like ever since this quarantine, I've actually been working myself and just actually making plans to start a business. I'm actually like incorporating in Delaware, so that's going well.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually want to get your advice because sometimes I feel like I get into things like pretty like I'm on the ball as far as like trying to do an activity, but sometimes I feel like I could be sometimes lazy. I don't know if it's because I'm young, but I just want to get your advice on how to overcome that, really.
How old are you?
23.
Okay. I'm reading a really interesting book that I highly recommend. It's called Why We Sleep. This is for everybody, by the way. It's called Why We Sleep. And hang on a second. Let me find I have the book right here. Let me go and get the book so I can tell you the author. It slips my mind right now. Sorry about that, Walt, and sorry to the whole audience. It's by Matthew Walker, Why We Sleep, and it talks about the issue of sleep and how it changes over time, and how, bottom line, you should get 8 hours sleep no matter what. And you should make sure that you allow your body to fall asleep whenever it wants to, and not shortchange your sleep in the morning. That is, don't set your alarm clock. Try to get 8 hours. I mean, if you have to go to like a meeting at 9, that means that you have to get up at 7:30, then be sure, or 7 o'clock, say. Be sure that you're in bed by 10:30 so that you fall asleep by 11 and have 8 hours, okay? Very important that you not interrupt those 8 hours, because it really helps you out, and it helps you insofar as motivation is concerned. And this is something that I've noticed over the years, is that a lot of times my motivation flags, not only because I don't have an objective. Sometimes I have a positive objective ahead of me and a negative objective that's hitting me in the shins, with a stick, right? But at the same time, I still don't have the motivation. A lot of times I realize that it's lack of sleep, and it seems so pedestrian an explanation. It seems so trivial, like, oh yeah, I'm not motivated because I'm sleepy. I'm tired. I'm not getting enough sleep. But it's really important. I mean, and it sounds like such a stupid thing, a stupid excuse. Oh yeah, I'm not motivated because I'm not getting enough sleep. But that's the problem. It's not more complicated than that. And sleep is one of the most beneficial things that you can do. I'm really influenced by this book. It's really opening my eyes to a lot of things I hadn't thought about. But looking at this book, reading it, and comparing it to my own life, I'm recognizing that, yeah, sleep is the most valuable activity every day, and that you should make sure that you get good sleep and that you sleep 8 hours, and your health will improve and your motivation will improve. Okay.
Okay.
Now, what you were saying before is that you were saying basically that your motivation seems to come and go, fade in and fade out. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, if you do have motivation to do something, and sometimes, then that's a positive thing. That means that you have the goal in mind and you have everything it takes to achieve it, and you're driving towards it. When it fades out, it might be something as simple and trivial as lack of sleep. And I know it sounds stupid. It would be cooler for me to come up with like a philosophical explanation with cool metaphors or analogies or whatnot. But something as trivial as sleeping properly gives enormous benefits. Matthew Walker wrote something here that was really, really good. Hang on, let me just read it to you. Hang on, let me find it. Okay, he wrote, here, let me read it to you. He writes, amazing breakthrough. Scientists have discovered a revolutionary new treatment that makes you live longer. It enhances your memory and makes you more creative. It makes you look more attractive. It keeps you slim and lowers food cravings. It protects you from cancer and dementia. It wards off colds and the flu. It lowers your risk of heart attacks and stroke, not to mention diabetes. You'll even feel happier, less depressed, and less anxious. Are you interested? And he says, then after that, it says, while it might sound hyperbolic, nothing about this fictitious advertisement would be inaccurate. If it were for a new drug, many people would be disbelieving. Those who were convinced would pay large sums of money for even the smallest dose of this drug. Should clinical trials back up the claims, share prices of the pharmaceutical company that invented this drug would skyrocket. Of course, the ad is not describing some miracle new tincture or a cure-all wonder drug, but rather the proven benefits of a full night of sleep. And this is true, by the way. By the way, this book, Matthew Walker, he's like a big brain PhD guy from the UK, Oxford, I think, and Harvard. I mean, he's all kinds of big brain, right? And this is actually an important book because he discusses the science of sleep, and he explains the different stages of sleep. And it's a scientific, or let me phrase it, it's a popular science book. But his ultimate goal is what I read in that message, in that fake advertisement, and then later the description, because it's true. Sleep has a powerful impact on your state of mind and all the rest of it. Okay, if your motivation is fading in and out, it could be that. Simple as that. I mean, stupid as it sounds, but it could be that. Hello? Walt, are you there? Hello, Walt? Walt? Oh, man. I hope he didn't quit on me saying, oh, coach is full of shit and I'm not going to listen to this crap. But so
Hello.
obviously something.
Hello, coach.
Hello,
Can you hear me?
Walt. Yeah,
Coach.
are you there? Yeah, hello.
Hello, coach. Coach.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually funny you mentioned that because how was it? I think I've known about you for like the past like 9 months. Even during those times I've actually like whatever, how they say like, oh, you find a red pill because of trauma, and I wouldn't say like I've been through a traumatic moment, but I would say like I definitely had a mark in my life. I kind of wondered that I do everything right because I actually had like a girl that I was with for like 2 years, give or take.
Yeah.
And she was like kind of type of girl like I just wanted to have like for a weekend fuck, but I mean she ended up turning me over, like how you say like guys are more romantic than females, and I can actually attest to that. And yeah, guys, we are kind of more romantic in a way, most of us. And kind of like she started sweet talking me to be like be better, be in a relationship more, and even to the point that she wanted to have a baby with me, and I told her no, I don't want to have a kid right now. Even not because I don't love kids, but because I didn't really know her enough to really say what I really want her to be the mother of my kid.
Absolutely
And
smart.
yeah. And she was kind of like a typical like daddy's girl. Like she loved her dad and everything, but there was something off about her. She was, for a very rare case, like a tattoo girl, like really impulsive, like extremely impulsive, and
Then no. Yeah, and
yeah, let's just say kind of like things didn't turn out well, and let's just say like she ended up getting pregnant by another guy, after like a couple months. Yeah, I feel bad for the sucker, but I actually didn't feel bad about it because I even thought to myself, what if that would have been my situation, that I would have gotten her pregnant, and this still would have happened. I mean, damn, man. And she was a typical daddy's girl. She loved her dad, but one thing I've noticed, because I was actually close with the old man. I realized that even though your kids might love you, and you might do everything for them, if you don't set the boundaries that are needed in your household, if you don't set them right, then you're not gonna go anywhere with your kids. Because she even told me some horror stories. When she was like 17, she moved off with a guy that was like 28 to like another state, and she was with him for like a couple weeks, and her dad didn't even know about it. I don't even know how the fuck you not know about it, but
how the hell did
bro,
that
like,
happen?
I don't know. That's even what I wonder too. Like, how the hell can a dad not know? Like, come on. I think you will know whether or not your kids are gone for like a week. I think you will probably notice them. And man, to be honest with you, I thank God, because man, things would have been to shit if I would actually like gone through that. And honestly, I kind of feel like I've kind of wasted time in a way, like being 2 years.
Yeah, but hang on a second. Hang on. Wait, Walt, you're 23, right?
Yeah, 23. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Any time that you quote unquote wasted, I mean, like this kind of situation, this is like a lot of experience that you're gaining. You're going to be able to apply this experience in the future. Okay. So don't think to yourself, oh, I haven't done anything. I don't have much to show for it. Well, you dodged a huge fucking bullet. Okay. And now you know what to look for. Okay. I mean,
I do.
In some countries, they build you a fucking statue, man. So, you dodged a huge goddamn bullet, right? And so now you know better. And now like you're thinking to yourself that you want to have kids. Not right now, but you want to have eventually
of course.
kids. So now you know how to act in a way that will not have your daughter turn out like this slut. Okay. So she's a daddy's girl, but like you said, no limits, and she turned into a slut. Zero impulse control, tattoos. I mean, like a whole fucking disaster. Yeah. So you learned. Value the things that you learn. Okay. Don't look down on them. Okay. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean,
So anyway, yeah, I've been going on for great talking to you, Walt. I've been going on for 3 hours, over 3 hours. So we're going to call it a halt insofar as this is concerned. As always, you know, the recording is going to be posted on the Patreon channel Monday morning. And yeah, as always, I had a great time. I hope you did too. I'm very much looking forward to the next week's webinar. And yeah, so I don't have anything more to say or any words of wisdom to leave you with, but just, you know, take it easy and remember this coronavirus is not the end of the world, okay? Anyway, take care and I'll talk to you next week.